known as the god of death of Konoha. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, The Choice of Brother and Sister. Sasuke. Long time no see. Come to my house when you have time. Bai Yu raised his hand and said with a smile. Sasuke nodded and sat down. Bai Yu didn't care. It didn't matter. They were all children. The key is that Sasuke is still very polite. Bai Heyo. Come out with me. Bai Yu nodded to the classmates in the class, waved his hand, and then said something, and went out first. Bai walked out with a smile on her face. Unlike Bai Heyo looked like he had no desire to live. Uzumaki Naruto next to him said very loyally, Heyo, don't worry, you will definitely not die. Bai Heyo was like a frostbitten eggplant when he heard this. Bai Yu smiled apologetically at Iruka, and then in Iruka's horrified eyes, holding Bai with his left hand and carrying Bai Heyo with his right hand like a chick, he walked away. Bai Heyo didn't speak all the way, but his eyes were full of despair. I'm going to train you two individually. Are you happy, Jinga? After returning home, Bai Yu threw Bai Heyo away casually and then smiled at Bai and said, happy? Bai threw herself into Bai Yu's arms and said coquettishly, but, Jinga, Dad's individual training is very hard. Can you hold on? Bai Yu said gently. I can. No matter how hard it is, I can hold on. I won't embarrass Daddy. Bai said firmly. After that, she continued to act coquettishly in Bai Yu's arms. Well, Daddy, why don't you ask me? Bai Heyo asked weakly on the side. You little stinky boy. You must hold on for me. If you dare to complain, I will break your legs. Don't forget, your dad can heal it even if it's broken. Just those little tricks of yours are really embarrassing for me. Bai Yu said unhappily. When Bai Heyo heard this, he was immediately annoyed and didn't say anything. But when he saw Bai Yu gently touching Bai's head, he whispered, we are all biological children. Why is there such a big difference? Bai Yu immediately glared at him when he heard this. Bai Heyo was immediately annoyed and didn't dare to speak anymore. The next day, Bai and Bai Heyo were thrown into the training for the new members of the Dragon Team. Anyway, the training had not started for long. Originally, everyone thought that the joining of Bai and Bai Heyo would allow everyone to have a little more free time, but Bai Heyo, Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Izumi and even Bai Yu's personality naturally knew that Bai Yu would not let them have so much free time. Sure enough, everyone was disappointed. Overthinking. Completely overthinking. The joining of Bai and Bai Heyo not only did not make everyone a little more free, but made them even more uncomfortable. At this time, all the Dragon Team ninjas, except for those who took necessary tasks, all ninjas did not take tasks. Under Bai Yu's order, they took turns to attack the new ninjas. Some studied together in 2s and 3s, and some studied together with 10 people. They all say brainstorming. At this time, Hatake Kakashi and others were scared. Fortunately, when they were in new training, everyone did not brainstorm together. Bai naturally accepted the training very strongly. What surprised Bai Yu was that, although Bai Heyo looked like he was going to die before he came, he was very excited after the training. Once, Bai Yu found that Bai Heyo was writing something in the notebook. Bai Yu took advantage of Bai Heyo's training and quietly opened it to see. Bai Yu was immediately shocked. This kid actually recorded all the tortures he had suffered in the notebook and wrote at the back that he would do something big with Uzumaki Naruto in the future. The previous prank was too childish. This made Bai Yu want to slap Bai Heyo to death. However, after the training, it was obvious that Bai Heyo had matured a lot and he didn't do things like he did before, which made Bai Yu very pleased. A month later, Bai Yu couldn't stand it anymore. These guys were too kind to Bai and Bai Heyo. He had no choice but to do it himself. Half a month later, Bai Heyo evolved after a layer of molting. Bai Yu's evaluation was that this was really his father! That was the day when the stage of training a good character ended. Next is the stage of practicing ninjutsu or taijutsu. looking at Bai Yang with a determined face. After finishing this period of training, Bai Yu immediately hugged Bai Yang and asked her about her well-being. Jinga, it's over. You have worked hard during this period. Your efforts are seen by your father. I'm so distressed. But training is training, and dad doesn't want you to give up halfway. Bai Yu kissed Bai Yang's face and said, it's okay, dad. Jinga is not afraid of hardship. Bai Yang was kissed by Bai Yu and said coquettishly with a blushing face, yeah, Jinga is great. Bai Yu said to Bai Yang with his face close to hers, dad, what about me? I'm also great. Bai Heo couldn't help but say, you. He looked at Bai Heo and glared. Bai Heo suddenly looked like he had no desire to live. By the way, his father is like this, like a daughter control. Not bad. Brat. Bai Yu knew that, although he had to be strict with his son, he still had to give him the praise he deserved. Although his tone was a little impatient, his words still revealed that he looked at Bai Heo with a new look. This made Bai Heo excited. This was the first time Bai Yu praised him. This instantly cleared Bai Heo's resentment towards Bai Yu. Follow up, brat. I'll start teaching you taijutsu today. Bai Yu glanced at the excited Bai Heo behind him, said unhappily, turned his head, and couldn't help but smile slightly. Bai Yang saw it, and immediately felt a sense of happiness. This was family happiness. Bai Yang was held in Bai Yu's arms, and then she rested her head on Bai Yu's shoulder, smiling coquettishly. After returning home, Bai Yang and Bai Heo stood opposite Bai Yu. Jinga, Heoa, what do you like about ninjutsu, taijutsu, illusion, etc.? Bai Yu asked with a slightly serious look. Daddy, I don't like fighting face to face with others. I prefer to fight remotely like Sister Raizumi. However, I don't have as many attributes as Sister Raizumi. There is only one wind attribute and one thunder attribute. Daddy, you know. Bai Yang thought about it and said first, okay, I know. What about you, Heoa? After listening to Bai Yang's words, Bai Yu also thought for a while. Although there are many wind and thunder attribute ninjutsu, there are many long-range attack methods, but they are all large-scale and high consumption. According to Bai Yang's preferences, pure ninjutsu attacks may not be suitable for her. However, Bai Yu was a great country in his previous life, and he condensed a lot of wisdom. Suddenly Bai Yu thought of bows and arrows. Although Bai Yang's attributes are wind and thunder attributes, if she practices archery well, she will definitely be a real Ash. After thinking about it, Bai Yu asked Bai Heo, Dad, I want to learn your ability to control chalk with one hand. That ability to control everything is so cool. Bai Heo's memory of the scene that day is quite clear. If this is replaced with ninja tools or long swords, it would be cool. But Bai Yu shook his head and said, it's simple to control objects, but the control can't be so powerful. Bai Yu looked at Bai Heo and said, is this kid going to learn sword control? Bai Yu didn't say it explicitly, but in his heart he hoped that Bai Heo would choose this path because he was proud of his swordsmanship. The sword controlling technique was his specialty. Chapter 302 The Foundation of Life. Dad, didn't you fully perform that secret technique that day? Bai Heo thought for a moment and asked. Yes, otherwise, would you two still be alive and kicking? You would have turned into honeycomb coal long ago. Bai Yu said with a smile. Dad, can you let me see the full power of that secret technique? Bai Heo said with his eyes lit up. Okay, let's go. Let's go to another place. Bai Yu thought about it and thought it was okay to show it. Holding Bai Yang in his left hand, his body slowly rose into the air, and holding Bai Heo's collar with his right hand, he flew away. Good guy. Fortunately Bai Yu flew fast and the place was not far away, otherwise Bai Heo would have been strangled to death. When approaching the ground, Bai Yu loosened his right hand and threw Bai Heo to the ground. Fortunately, Bai Heo was quite agile, and with a buffering action, he landed safely. Bai Heo was about to mutter a few words, but he saw Bai Yu put Bai Yang in his arms on the ground very gently, and then asked softly, Jinga, are you scared of flying in the air for the first time? I'm not afraid, Dad. This feeling is so wonderful. Bai Yang said excitedly. Bai Heo covered his chest and helplessly comforted himself. My dear father. Definitely my dear father. After Bai Yu said a few words to Bai Yu's face began to become serious. Bai and Bai both knew that once Bai Yu became serious, he would talk about business. Over the years, I have summed up that in the battle between truly strong people, only powerful ninjutsu, illusion, and physical skills can play a role. So, I will not teach you those low-level ninjutsu. Although I know a lot, as long as you are willing to study hard, I believe you can also know a lot of ninjutsu. What I want to teach you is the secret technique that can be used when you really meet a strong person. Bai Yu paused and continued. Although I taught Uchiha and the others, including the Dragon Group ninjas and other people, many ninjutsu. But there are not many secret techniques that can really last until the end and help to be invincible. Your eldest brother Baki, with a spear, pistol skills, and the ability of the Dharma Eye, these are the foundation of his life. Your second sister Bai Yu, with the Bai family swordsmanship and the ability of the Dharma Eye, is also her foundation. Uchiha Itachi, his foundation is illusion. It's the same as Yuhi, but they took different paths. Itachi relied on the Sharingan and talent. Yuhi relied on mental strength, and the amount of use caused a qualitative change. Uchiha Izumi's foundation is her overall view and the long-range assistance of multi-attribute ninjutsu. Of course, she is not willing to fight. Hatake Kakashi, with his sword skills, should be able to condense his bloodline limit storm release by himself. Uchiha Shizu, with his extraordinary talent, earned the name of Flicker Shizu through the art of body movement. Uchiha Obito, with the perseverance whipped out by me, studied the changes of fire attribute chakra to a very deep level, and earned the name of the Flame Envoy. Sarutobi Asuma, with his wild imagination and alternative training methods, also studied the changes of wind attribute chakra to a certain level. Nohara, a medical ninja, gained impressive abilities by accident. My guy, a man who successfully transformed into Konoha's blue beast by constantly abusing himself. Tachibana Yukio's foundation is the power of his bloodline. With my help, he can perfectly control his bloodline power. Uchiha Genji and others, or Konoha's long-established ninjas. Needless to say, everyone has his own foundation. What I have to do now is to let you find the foundation that suits you best. Bai Yu said proudly. Of course, Moonlight Gale hadn't found his way yet, so Bai Yu couldn't say anything. Dad, what is your foundation? Bai Yu suddenly asked. Me. Bai Yu said softly, then looked at the sky for a while. Then he looked at Bai and Bai and said slowly, my foundation is swordsmanship, secret technique, body, mana. Other techniques are just what I accidentally researched, and they are not my foundation. Talisman techniques are more for convenience. Divine spell techniques can only deal with elite jonin or quasi-kage at most. As for illusion techniques, they are useless in front of truly strong people, because for those who have a strong heart, any illusion technique is just an obsession, unless it is some forbidden technique level illusion technique. But the duel between strong people is over in the blink of an eye. Who will give you the opportunity to perform it? Dad, why haven't Haoa and I awakened the Dharma Eye yet? I remember that my elder brother and second sister had already awakened when we were the same age. Bai said, a little disappointed. Bai was a little frustrated when Bai said this. Bai Yu smiled and said, the Dharma Eye uses the power of yin and yang. Since then, and Yao have experienced some battles since they were young. Although they are still very young, they have also had a certain impact. Don't worry, this matter can't be rushed. It will come naturally when the time comes. Don't force it. If you don't force it, maybe you will awaken tomorrow. Okay, I know, Daddy. Bai pouted and said, Dad, how can I reach your level? Bai thought for a while and suddenly asked, Stinky boy, you are still ambitious. You are too young now. According to the Bai family's daffa that I taught you, you will be able to complete your physical body one day. Let's see if you have the opportunity at that time. Now you should just choose the foundation of your life with peace of mind. Bai Yu cursed with a smile. Bai scratched his head awkwardly. Yes, how old is he? It's still too early. Dad, I've thought about it. I don't like direct battles. I prefer to be able to help teammates remotely like Sister Quan Mei. Bai said seriously. Okay. Bai Yu nodded with a smile. Dad, can you show me the secret technique you used that day? Bai Yu said with a grin. Bastard. Watch this. Bai Yu cursed with a smile, and then his expression suddenly became serious. In an instant, Bai Yu's spirit reached its peak. Bai Yu was also refreshed when he saw Bai Yu's changes. Sword control technique. Bai Yu's pupils shrank, his right foot stepped back, and his right hand drew into the air. The dragon sword on his waist was unsheathed. A trace of bloody smell appeared out of thin air, and the terrifying murderer Sora burst out without any concealment. Sword control technique. Sword rain. The purple gold magic power around Bai Yu was boiling. The dragon sword also burst out with a purple gold color. It differentiated into thousands of sword shadows. Go. Bai Yu frowned and pointed to the open space in the distance. Buzz. Thousands of sword shadows hummed in unison, and then the sharp sword energy filled the sword shadows, and then, like a torrential rain, they aimed at the direction pointed by Bai Yu, and fell with a bang. Shua 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 sword shadows, like rain, really penetrated the ground. The range was so large and the attack power was so strong, that you could tell, by looking at the extent of the damage to the ground. Bai Yu was stunned. Bai Ying was also stunned. I didn't expect my father to be so strong. But this is not the end yet. Chapter 303 Archery. Sword control technique. 10,000 swords return to the origin. Bai Yu moved both hands at the same time and shouted in a deep voice. The sword shadow that was originally inserted into the ground began to tremble. Then it quickly returned to Bai Yu's head, gathered into an extremely huge dragon sword. The whole body exuded a purple gold light. Go. Bai Yu raised his head slightly behind his left hand, shouted with great pride, and then pointed his right hand to the distance. Buzz. Another sound of swords chirping. The previous one was the chirping of 10,000 swords. This time it was a giant sword chirping alone, but the sound of the sword chirping was deafening. Boom. The direction that Bai Yu pointed to was opened by the giant sword. It's not over yet! Exclamation mark. The next move is a move that Bai Yu has not used since the casting of the spirit sword. The true body of the sword spirit. With Bai Yu's loud shout, the originally condensed giant sword underwent a huge change, and a dragon that was all black but faintly exuded a purple gold light appeared out of thin air. Bai Yu waved his hand, and a dragon sword that was not real floated around Bai Yu. Was there a fight? Why can't I feel it? This dragon was Yamato no Orochi. Yamato no Orochi roared wildly for a few times, but found no hostility around him. So he asked in confusion. The voice was dull, like thunder. There was no fight. It was just that my hands were itchy. Nothing. You go back. Bai Yu touched his nose, and then said awkwardly. Yamato no Orochi almost fell from the air when he heard it. He took a deep look at Bai Yu, and then said arsehole. Then he returned to the sword spirit space again, and the dragon sword floating around Bai Yu became real again. Bai Yu waved his hand, and the dragon sword returned to the sheath. How is it? It's okay. Bai Yu looked at Bai Yu and said softly. Oh my god, Dad. So cool. That's it. That's it. I want to learn. I want to learn. Bai Yu had been stunned for a long time. After being awakened by Bai Yu's words, he excitedly hugged Bai Yu's arm and hung on Bai Yu and said excitedly, it's possible, but I don't know if you can bear this hardship. Bai Yu said helplessly, the art of controlling the sword is the culmination of swordsmanship. It comprehends the sword's meaning. The sword's meaning is clear and shapes the sword's heart. Only then can the spirit and strength grow together, and then the art of controlling the sword can be performed. In other words, Bai Yu must comprehend his own sword's meaning in battle, then rely on continuous comprehension to understand his own sword's heart. I'm not afraid of hardship. Dad, I want to learn this. I want it. Bai Yu was so excited at this moment. Seeing Bai Yu perform the art of controlling the sword, Bai Yu felt that he had a goal in his life. Well, since you want to learn the art of controlling the sword, you can't just learn the Bai family swordsmanship. I will teach you all the swordsmanship I know. Then you can integrate the swordsmanship. This is the first step. Bai Yu said with a serious face. When Bai Yu heard this, why did he have to learn all the sword techniques? He had heard about his father's sword techniques, but he didn't know when he would be able to learn all of them, and he had to master them thoroughly. Oh my god. Bai stopped talking immediately, and Bai Yu didn't say anything either, because this must be determined by oneself, and others can't force it. Ignoring Bai who was thinking, Bai Yu smiled at Bai and said, Jinga, from now on, you must work hard to practice the Bai family's method. Then I will teach you archery. Dad, what is archery? Bai asked in confusion. Well, archery is the art of bow and arrow. Look, let me show you. Bai Yu explained briefly, and then decided that it would be more appropriate to demonstrate it. After all, seeing it with your own eyes can better understand it. Bai Yu used his magic power in his left hand to condense a purple gold almost solid longbow. With his right hand, he used his magic power to condense an arrow. Then his spirit and energy were concentrated on a vertex again. Aim at a high mountain in the distance. But Bai Yu let go of his hand, and the arrow was like a wild horse running away, running straight to the high mountain in the distance. The sound of breaking through the air made people's ears ring. Boom. There was a sound of explosion on the top of the mountain in the distance. Since Bai Yu did not use much mana, he only flattened a peak of the mountain. But this was enough to shock Bai. Is this archery? Can I learn it? Bai saw this and said unconfidently. Of course you can learn it. I don't have a bow and arrow, so I can only use mana instead. This is more powerful than ordinary bows and arrows. When you reach my level, you can also condense a bow and arrow like Daddy. Bai Yu touched Bai's head and said gently, well, since Daddy said I can do it, then I can do it. I will practice hard according to what Daddy said. Reach Daddy's realm as soon as possible. Bai listened to Bai Yu's words, and her little face was filled with seriousness and persistence. Dad, can I learn that archery? This is also cool. Bai said faintly. Get out. Okay. After a night of contemplation, Bai decided to learn sword control. As long as he learned this, he could definitely become the top of the ninja world. As for being comparable to his father, forget it, he is too evil to be compared. When he learned that Bai wanted to learn archery, he was blocked by Tsunade, Uchiha Makoto, and Terumi Mei. According to the history of the Naruto world, bows and arrows existed before, but they were soon eliminated because of low attack power, inconvenience to carry and other factors, which made them very impractical. But this is a piece of cake for Bai Yu. Since chakra can be used with longsword ninja tools, why can't it be used on arrows? It is inconvenient to carry. With the bracelet, invented by Bai Yu, what is inconvenient to carry? However, Bai Yu still held the three women in his arms domineeringly, flew to an uninhabited area again, and then aimed at a high mountain. This time Bai Yu opened fire at full power, and saw that the original high mountain was hit by an arrow shot by Bai Yu and gradually vaporized. The three women closed their stunned mouths just now. Who said that bows and arrows are not cost effective? That's because you natives don't know how to use it. Of course, Bai Yu would never say these words. After returning to the Dragon Group base with the three girls, Bai Yu went home and took Bai and Bai to the street. It was already afternoon, and there were many people on the street. Why go to the street? Because no one makes longbows now, so Bai Yu had to make one himself, but he lacked a very key material, the tendons of the summoned beast, to be used as the bowstring. Fortunately, Bai Yu racked his brains and finally recalled the longbow making method recorded in a book in his previous life. I heard that the longbow made in this way is very good, but Bai Yu did not plan to make a good ninja tool for Bai at the beginning. Everything should be done step by step. After all, mythical beasts like the Yamato no Orochi are still rare. Wait for a chance to get a few in the future, and then give your apprentice and 4 children a good spiritual tool. Should I kill the tailed beast? At this time, some strange ideas popped into Bai Yu's mind, and then they were quickly eliminated. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 Dragon Tendons! Exclamation mark. Bai Yu was walking on the street with Bai and Bai. He heard that a ninja tool shop had come to Konoha a few years ago. At that time, in order to give them a living, Sarutobi Hiruzen closed the ninja tool shop opened by the Bai family in Konoha and turned it into a ninja tool manufacturing department exclusively for the Dragon Group. At that time, Narahirakoa also asked Tsunade. Sarutobi Hiruzen had naturally done the work and had agreed with Tsunade. Later, Bai Yu returned, but he didn't care. Anyway, it didn't matter. Money was just a string of numbers for Bai Yu now. Bai Yu didn't care about money and was never interested in money. Bai Yu took Bai-ing with his left hand and pushed the door in first. Bai-heo naturally followed behind Bai Yu. Welcome. What do you need? Lord Bai Yu. A little girl wearing a button cheongsam, but this cheongsam was only the upper body and the lower body was wearing pants, smiled at Bai Yu and said. But the little girl was obviously shocked to see Bai Yu. She even stuttered when she spoke. Shianshin. Bai-ing looked at the girl and said with a slight surprise. Seeing this, Bai Yu wondered if he knew him. Hi Shianshin, are you working here? Bai-heo popped out from behind Bai Yu and said with a smile. Bai-ing. Bai-heo. It's a part-time job. Actually this ninja tool shop is owned by my family. Shianshin was a little nervous when he saw Bai Yu, but when he saw Bai-ing and Bai-heo, he finally calmed down. Although Bai Yu is usually very approachable, as a top figure in the ninja world, he naturally has a sense of power. This is not because his realm is not in place, but because he cannot hide it. This is owned by your family. I will come here often in the future. Bai-heo said with an extremely sunny smile. After speaking, he also made an okay gesture. That's what you said. You must come here often in the future. Shianshin heard Bai-heo's words, and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes, but he was more reserved, and was not discovered by Bai-ing and Bai-heo. However, as an old hand, Bai Yu naturally noticed it. However, you can come often, but you have to wait until I finish my training. I don't need to buy anything. But by the time I finish my training, I guess you will be closed. Haha. When Bai-heo said this, Shianshin's face turned black, and Bai Yu secretly cursed him as an idiot with advanced male cancer. But Bai-heo still felt good about himself. Seeing this situation, Bai Yu couldn't help but sigh. What a joke this guy is, with such low emotional intelligence, not at all like me in the past. When you come, you can call me. My house is upstairs, very convenient. Shianshin sighed quietly and said with a smile. It depends on the situation. Bai-heo said. Bai Yu's mouth twitched, and he smiled and said, hello Shianshin. Heo is always naughty at school. I'd better trouble you to keep an eye on him in the future. After all, I can't always be by his side to take care of him. You are too polite, Lord Bai Yu. I will help you keep an eye on him in the future. Shianshin said respectfully. TSK. You. Dong. After hearing Shianshin's words, Bai-heo was about to say a few harsh words arrogantly, but was gently hammered by Bai Yu. Hiss, Dad. It hurts so much. Bai-heo covered his head, tears almost coming out of his eyes, and said with extreme resentment, HMPH. Bai Yu glared at Bai-heo and said nothing. Bai-ing was laughing secretly on the side. She was smart, and after a little thought, she understood what was going on. Bai-heo pursed his lips and didn't dare to speak, but when he saw Bai-ing laughing secretly, he felt unhappy, but he also knew that Bai-ing was smarter than him, so he quickly leaned over and asked, third sister, do you know why Dad beat me? Bai-ing looked at Bai Yu and Shianshin who were chatting, and whispered in Bai-heo's ear, Shianshin, I heard that you have everything here. I want a top grade animal tendon. Do you have it? The higher the quality, the better. After talking for a while, Bai Yu asked, there really is one. I just collected it a few days ago. It's useless, so I'll give it to you. Shianshin thought for a while, then his eyes lit up and said, how can that be? It's the price it should be. Where is it? Take it out, and let me see it. Bai Yu said with a hearty smile. Wait a minute. Shianshin said, and then he climbed up to the highest shelf next to him very swiftly, took out a long box, and jumped down to the ground. Ah. Really? Third sister, you didn't lie to me. Bai-heo shouted suddenly, almost causing Shianshin to sprain his ankle. What are you shouting for? Bai Yu turned around and shouted angrily, this guy really embarrassed me. Bai-ing also covered her face in embarrassment. Ah. Nothing. Beiheo also said in embarrassment. Third sister said. Beiheo was about to say what Beiying told him. Beiying was immediately anxious. How could he say this? Dad, check out the animal tendon. Beiying said hurriedly. Beiheo didn't say anything when he saw this. Bai Yu frowned slightly, glanced at Beiying and Beiheo, and didn't say anything, but opened the long box that Xianshan handed over. What is this? Oh my. How is it possible? Bai Yu opened the box, his eyes widened. He shouted in disbelief. Master Bai Yu, is there any problem? Xianshan asked in confusion. This. Bai Yu looked at the beast tendon in the box, and his heart was not calm. The awakening of the dragon bloodline and the condensation of the dragon body made Bai Yu extremely sensitive to his own kind. The beast tendon in the box was a dragon tendon. Although it was a dragon tendon of a sub-dragon, and although this beast tendon was very old, the weak dragon energy remaining in it was still clearly sensed by Bai Yu. Such a good material. It seems that the materials I prepared before are still a bit low level. It seems that it is necessary to make another trip to find the beast soul forginger and make only one spiritual weapon. Otherwise, this dragon tendon will be wasted. Bai Yu thought to himself. It's nothing, but this beast tendon is very precious. How much is the price of this beast tendon? Bai Yu calmed down and said with a smile. This, Lord Bai Yu, if you need it, just take it. Xianshan said with some embarrassment. Xianshan, uncle knows your intention. You can come to my house when you have time, but this animal tendon is really valuable. Uncle can't take advantage of it. Bai Yu said earnestly. Well, this animal tendon is priced at 50 million taels. This is the original price. I didn't charge you more money, Uncle Bai Yu. Xianshan was very happy to hear Bai Yu let her go to his house to play, and said with a smile. This animal tendon should be priced at 70 million taels. Bai Yu said mysteriously. Uncle Bai Yu, how did you know? Xianshan was stunned, and said in surprise. Bai Yu calmly withdrew his eyes from the price tag not far above his head. This height may be very high for Xianshan, but for Bai Yu, it's just looking up. Don't ask uncle how I know. Just go by the original price. Swipe the card. Bai Yu smiled slightly, and then took out a bank card from his handbag. Maybe Uncle Bai Yu is more knowledgeable. Xianshan smiled at the thought of this, and then swiped the bank card for Bai Yu skillfully. However, when Xianshan saw the balance in Bai Yu's bank card that day, he was stunned. Chapter 305. Your dad said his face was itchy. Xianshan looked over and over again many times, making sure that he had not swiped the wrong amount. It was indeed 70 million taels, but the balance on Bai Yu's bank card was still such a long string. It was impossible to count. Well, Xianshan accepted this reality, but Xianshan didn't think much about it. After Bai Yu said a few more words to Xianshan, he left with Beiheo and Beiying with a smile. Heoa, why did you shout just now? Bai Yu asked, after leaving the ninja tool shop. Well, the third sister said that Xianshan likes me. I don't quite believe it. Beiheo said angrily. Bai Yu glanced at Beiying, who looked embarrassed, smiled and said nothing, poked Beiheo's forehead, took Beiying's little hand, and walked home. At this time, the three Tsunade girls had not returned yet, so Bai Yu asked Beiying and Beiheo to go back to the room to practice Bai's Daffa. Then he sat in the living room, took out the long box, and opened it again. Not long after opening it, a figure appeared in front of Bai Yu, accompanied by bursts of fragrance. Brother, this is. The person who came was Baking Cheng, who also had a strong sense of the dragon clan. Baking Cheng looked at the dragon tendon in the box, and asked in confusion. Oh, it's rare. The otaku finally came out. I bought a sub-dragon tendon by chance in the ninja tool store. Bai Yu said with a smile. Huh, but it's really rare to see a sub-dragon tendon in this world. Baking Cheng rolled his eyes at Bai Yu, and then said with emotion. Who said it wasn't? When I first saw this dragon tendon, I felt the same as you. I don't know how this unlucky guy died. Bai Yu said with some emotion. What are you going to do with the dragon tendon? Baking Cheng asked with a gleam in his eyes. Make a bow forginger. Bai Yu said. Okay. Baking Cheng pouted and said. Are you useful? Bai Yu asked when he saw this. Nothing. I'm going back to play games. Baking Cheng waved his hand and said. Is that so? Well then. After I finish making it for Jinger, I guess there will be half left. Since you don't have much use for it, I'll make some hairbands. Using dragon tendons to tie hair is a luxury, Bai Yu said in an exaggerated way, and then he pulled out the dragon sword, pretending to cut it off in small pieces. Brother, you are really my brother. Stop it now. Do you really only need half? Baking Cheng rushed to Bai Yu, stopped Bai Yu, and said excitedly. Bai Yu was a little intoxicated by the fragrance on Baking Cheng's body. Really? I'm not lying to you. Bai Yu said. It's just right. With such a long dragon tendon, half of it is enough for me. I want to make a spirit whip. Baking Cheng said excitedly. Whip! Exclamation mark. Bai Yu subconsciously glanced at the whip. Bang! Baking Cheng naturally noticed Bai Yu's eyes and punched Bai Yu in the face. Then he picked up the dragon sword that Bai Yu had just placed next to him and cut the dragon tendon in two. Regardless of Bai Yu's head embedded in the wall, he walked upstairs with brisk steps. Bai Ying and Bai Heo naturally heard the loud noise and they hurried downstairs. They met Baking Cheng. Aunt, what happened just now? Bai Ying asked hurriedly. It's nothing. Your father said his face was itchy, and you know my temper, so I hit him a little too hard. It's okay. I'll go back to my room first. Haha. Baking Cheng said awkwardly, and then hurried back to her own home. Bai Ying and Bai Heo looked at each other, a little confused. But they still went downstairs. They saw Bai Yu supporting the wall with both hands and pushing hard. As a result, a hole suddenly appeared on the originally clean and tidy white wall, and a scarf that looked like a big white wall appeared on Bai Yu's neck. Bai Yu had no choice but to break the scarf. Well, Heoa, go to the Hatake family and ask brother Tsukumo to help repair the wall. Jinger and I will wait for you at the Akimichi family's barbecue restaurant. The embarrassed Bai Yu said, and then pulled Bai Ying away. Anyway, Tsunade and the other two will be back late, and they have to take care of dinner by themselves, so why not take Bai Ying and Bai Heo to a restaurant? With Hatake Tsukumo's speed, it should be finished soon. Bai Heo looked at Bai Yu pulling Bai Ying away with a chic back. I shouldn't have come down. Bai Heo ran to Hatake's house helplessly with a bitter face. Bai Yu came to the barbecue restaurant and happened to meet the family of 3 of Minato Namikaze. Anyway, the table is very big, and under the enthusiastic calls of Minato Namikaze and Kushina, Bai Yu pulled Bai Ying over. It's rare. Minato, you finally have time to spend with your family. Bai Yu said jokingly after sitting down. Yes. Konoha is getting better and better now. Although there are more things to deal with than before, compared with the past, they are just some small things. It's natural to deal with them quickly. Minato Namikaze is still as kind and gentle as ever. Uncle Bai Yu, where did you take Bai Ying and Bai Heo that day? I haven't seen them for a long time. Uzumaki Naruto asked. I took them to special training. Why do you miss Bai Heo? Bai Yu asked with a smile. A little bit. Bai Heo and I are good friends. Uzumaki Naruto's smile was as sunny as Minato Namikaze's, but this smile made Bai Yu feel cold in his heart. Could it be that Uzumaki Naruto and Bai Heo are good friends? Exclamation mark. This. Bai Heo and I get along very well, much better than that ice cube. He doesn't even smile every day, and his face is gloomy. I don't know what's wrong with him. And he has a perverted obsession with strength and winning or losing. Uzumaki Naruto came to Bai Yu and whispered. However, Uzumaki Naruto thought his voice was very small, but he didn't know that Minato Namikaze, Kushina and Bai Ying all heard it. Kushina naturally punched hard. Excuse me, you, this kid is always so outspoken. Kushina said apologetically. It's okay. I think he looks a lot like you. I mean this kid is very lively, very good. Bai Yu felt a scary red light in Kushina's eyes after he finished the previous sentence, so he quickly changed his words. Kushina calmed down, and Minato Namikaze quickly gave him an apologetic look, and Bai Yu expressed his understanding. Bai Ying, what kind of training did you and Bai Heo receive? Why do you feel different from before? Uzumaki Naruto leaned over to Bai Ying and whispered. People of the same age naturally have a lot of topics to talk about, so Bai Ying and Uzumaki Naruto started chatting, while Bai Yu chatted with Kushina and Minato Namikaze. At this moment, Bai Yu felt a sense of resentment around him. Bai Yu was startled and quickly turned his head to look, only to see Bai Heo, who was covered in dust, standing next to Bai Yu, looking at Bai Yu with great resentment. Bai Yu touched his nose, feeling a little embarrassed, and quickly cleaned up Bai Heo's body and then let Bai Heo sit next to him. But soon, Bai Heo sat next to Uzumaki Naruto again, and the three children began to talk closely. Heo, I heard from my third sister that you two received inhuman training. Uzumaki Naruto asked Bai Heo curiously. I said inhuman, it's just strict. Bai Ying raised her eyebrows and said unhappily. Third sister, don't be modest. That's not strict. It's just living in hell. Bai Heo said with a horrified face. Then Bai Heo began to speak with a beaming face. Uzumaki Naruto's face became paler and paler. This is simply too horrible. At this time, the poor Hatake Tsukumo was still helping Bai Yu repair the wall. Chapter 306. Something went wrong. After dinner, Bai Yu took Bai Ying and Bai Heo home to deal with the hard worker Hatake Tsukumo. Bai Yu drank tea in the living room. After a while, Tsunade, Uchiha and Terumi Mei came back. But their faces looked a little bad. Including Uchiha, their faces looked a little bad. Bai Yu was stunned when he saw this and asked quickly, what's wrong? You look so sad. After that, he poured tea for the three women. Sister Mimi, tell me. Uchiha looked at Tsunade with a gloomy face and said to Terumi Mei. Because Uchiha didn't know the details of this matter, the Daimyo's mansion has made some moves. The original 12 guardian ninjas were just a cover. They secretly gathered a lot of rebellious ninjas and wandering ninjas from various villages and secretly spread Konoha's intelligence to the Rock Village, the Sand Village, and the Cloud Village. As a result, the missions of the Dragon Group and the Anbu, as well as the Konoha ninjas, have become more difficult. The mission difficulty has been raised from C level to B level and D level to C level many times. Moreover, those rebellious ninjas and wandering ninjas will also take the opportunity to attack and kill Konoha ninjas, no matter who they are. After investigation, it was found that merchants were often robbed or intercepted since a week ago. No one knows how this information was leaked, and even the routes were leaked clearly. But there is no problem with missions above B level. Terumi said calmly. Arsehole. Boom. After listening to what Terumi said, Tsunade smashed the handle of a sofa with one punch and cursed. This is made of solid wood. Bai Yu looked at the damage all over the floor and said secretly with a pain in his heart, but he didn't dare to say it out loud for fear that Tsunade's anger would hit him. When did this happen? Bai Yu frowned and asked. Just now. Minato Namikaze's expression clearly showed that he didn't know about this. It was just when Tsunade and Mimi were preparing to go home that the information was sent. Uchiha frowned and said, no wonder, I guess Minato was called to a meeting again this time. Bai Yu just thought of this, and an Anbu ninja appeared in the yard. Master Bai Yu. Before he finished speaking, Bai Yu interrupted and said, the meeting room, right? Yes. There are also Master Tsunade, Master Uchiha Makoto, and Master Terumi Mei, said the Anbu ninja. Got it, we'll go there right away. After Bai Yu finished speaking, the Anbu ninja disappeared. At this time, Bai Ying and Bai Heo also went downstairs. They heard the noise just now. Jinga and Heo, you guys take a good rest at home. Your mother and I will go out for a meeting. Bai Yu walked over, touched Bai Ying and Bai Heo's heads and said, got it. Bai Ying and Bai Heo said very sensibly, do you need me to go? Bai King Cheng also came down at this time and asked softly, no need, King Cheng, don't you want to get the ninja tools? Just do it. Bai Yu said with a smile, okay, I got it. Bai King Cheng nodded. Afterwards, Bai Yu changed his clothes, carried the dragon sword, and took Tsunade, Uchiha Makoto, and Terumi Mei, and then flashed away to the Hokage building. When Bai Yu and the other four arrived at the conference room was already full of Konoha's senior executives. Bai Yu and the other four didn't say any nonsense and sat down in their seats with serious faces. Namikaze Minato sat in the first seat. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Bai Yu sat side by side. Hateitsukumo, Tsunade, Uchiha Mikoto, Terumi Mei, Narashikaku, Hyuga Hayashi, Uchiha Fugaku, Akimichi Choza, Yamanaka Inoichi, Inozuka Tsumugi, Aburame Shiwei, and some ninjas with relatively strong strength, such as Yuhi Shinku, etc. As they lined up, Namikaze Minato coughed twice. He asked two ninjas to distribute a scroll to everyone. After Bai Yu opened the scroll and looked at the contents on it, he was so angry that his eyebrows were raised. It was not only recorded in it about the Daimyo mansion, but also about the various villages that targeted Konoha. Not only Bai Yu, but everyone who was sitting here was also a little angry after reading the contents on it. Breathing became a little heavy, but years of precipitation and experience allowed everyone to calm down and remain calm. This scroll clearly records the movements of the Daimyo mansion and what was done secretly. Even the Sand Village, Rock Village, and Cloud Village did something to Konoha in secret. A series of events were recorded in great detail, and the list of Konoha's sacrificed ninjas was also clearly recorded on it. What do you think about this? After confirming that everyone had read it, Namikaze Minato asked seriously. We must fight back. Inozuka Tsume was a bit hot-tempered and couldn't help but say it first. Yes. We must let them know the strength of Konoha. It's a bit unreasonable not to fight back after doing such a thing to Konoha. For a while, the senior officials were all enthusiastic. Among the names of these sacrificed ninjas, some were their family members, some were friends, and some were clansmen. Sarutobi Hiruzen coughed twice when he saw this scene, and when the scene was quiet, he said, fighting back is necessary, but how to fight back? What do you think? At this moment, the ninjas began to fall into contemplation again. How about sending a senior ninja to secretly protect the ninjas when they go out on missions in the future? Inozuka Tsume said, after thinking for a long time. If this is the case, the strength of the ninjas in Konoha village will be dispersed. If there is any unexpected incident, it will probably have an impact, right? Yamanaka Inoichi also said, after thinking for a moment. Now not only the ninjas in the village are affected in executing their missions, but also the Anbu and the Dragon Group are affected to a certain extent. It is very difficult to solve. Hinata Hayashi frowned and said, the ninjas of the Dragon Group and the Anbu are very strong, and the missions they carry out are all above B level, so the impact should not be great. Moreover, the Anbu and the Dragon Group are very strong. In terms of safety, we only need to have one more person when carrying out the mission. The problem is the ninjas of Konoha. They are all Konoha's seedlings and the pillars of Konoha's future. Every loss is a loss for Konoha. Uchiha Fugaku said calmly. That's right. Moreover, the Daimyo prefecture is expected to make some moves, so we need to be careful. We can't disperse the Jonin level ninjas in the village at this time. Hateitsukumo said. No matter what, we must not only not disperse our forces, but also execute the tasks we have accepted perfectly. If the other three villages shrink their strength, Konoha's speed of completing tasks will slow down, which is exactly their purpose. Terumi Mei, who had just arrived in Konoha, spoke up, hitting the nail on the head with the temperament of a queen. Terumi Mei's words impressed the senior ninjas in the village. However, due to the seriousness of the matter, they did not show much reaction, and were still calmly thinking about how to deal with this problem. Chapter 307, Set Out. Yes, we must fight back, and we must use thunder and lightning. Tsunade responded domineeringly at this time. Not only that, we must also show Konoha's top strength. Uchiha Mikoto also said angrily, looking at the three domineering white ladies. Everyone's blood is boiling. The fighting spirit that has been almost forgotten after years of peace is gradually ignited. I have a plan. Narashikaku, who has been silent all the time, spoke. Everyone's eyes are on Narashikaku. Narashikaku has always been known as the wise man of Konoha village. There are so many strategies, so everyone trusts Narashikaku very much. Especially Narashikaku often says at a critical moment, I bet on the brains of the Nara family. This sentence is very powerful. What strategy, Shikaku? Tell me. Sarutobi Hiruzen said. I guess we old guys need to stretch our muscles. Narashikaku said with a calm smile on his face. Akimichi Choza is very familiar with Narashikaku's smile. Once Narashikaku shows such a smile on his face, it is almost certain that the enemy will suffer. Great. After being quiet for so long, I can finally move around. Akimichi Choza said. Yes. Shikaku, just tell me now. Don't keep me in suspense. Yamanaka Inoichi said with a smile. I just thought about it carefully. Most of the wandering ninjas and rebel ninjas secretly operated by the Daimyo's mansion are active near the official roads leading to various villages in Konoha. First, they target merchants. Second, they can arbitrarily raid Konoha's ninja teams to perform missions. Third, they can provide intelligence support to the other 3 villages. The ninjas of the other 3 villages mostly move around the border between their own village and Konoha. There are very few teams that go deep into the territory of the Land of Fire. The fact that they can go deep into the territory shows that the strength of the ninja teams in other villages is very strong. Nerashikaku said this and immediately defined the scope of the matter. My plan is, in addition to the Hokage, an elder, and 16 veteran ninjas are present here. When Narashikaku said this, everyone couldn't help but look at Bai Yu. Bai Yu knew that he couldn't escape the fight, so he didn't say anything and listened quietly. For those guys in the Daimyo's mansion, it's me, Akimichi Choza, Yamanaka Inoichi, Inozuka Tsumuji, Yuhi Shinku, Aburame Shiwei, Uchiha Makoto. When Narashikaku said this, the door of the conference room was kicked open. Wait. There are also me and Missy. Count us in. It was Kushina who kicked the door. It was also Kushina who shouted. Namikaze Minato looked at everyone with embarrassment and apology, and everyone also expressed understanding, because everyone knew Kushina's character for a long time. Okay, there are also Kushina and Missy. They are responsible for the wandering ninjas and rebel ninjas near the official roads around Konoha. They are all miscellaneous troops, so it is easier to clean them up. Narashikaku simply said. Everyone nodded. Narashikaku continued. Let's take a look at the map. Narashikaku stood up and walked to the ninja world map behind Namikaze Minato, pointing to the area where the ninjas of the 3 villages were active. Hatake Tsukumo, Uchiha Fugaku, Hyuga Hayashi, Tsunade, Terumi Mei, etc., except for the Hokage, Elder Sarutobi, and Elder Bai Yu, are free to hunt in these 3 areas. Narashikaku finished speaking, and a trace of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. What about me? I'll watch you fight in Konoha. Bai Yu asked in confusion. You wish. Dream on. You wish. Without waiting for Narashikaku to speak, Tsunade, Uchiha Makoto, and Terumi Mei said together. Bai Yu pursed his lips and was speechless. Seeing this situation, everyone was also in a mood to hold back their laughter. After all, the current atmosphere was not very peaceful. Go to the 3 villages and wander around. The 3 women looked at each other. Then they pointed at Bai Yu and said in unison. Okay. Bai Yu looked at Narashikaku who nodded and said helplessly. Then he didn't say anything. In this case, let's not delay. Prepare tonight and set off at dawn tomorrow. Namikaze Minato saw that everyone had no objection and the plan was indeed good, so he made the decision. Bai Yu, Tsunade, Uchiha Makoto, and Terumi Mei who returned home didn't have anything to prepare. They all had light armor and ninja tools, and the quality was good. After all, this is what the family does. In order to punish the 3 women for their arrogance just now, Bai Yu set up a soundproofing array and started an indescribable game. The next morning, Bai Yu instructed Bai Ying and Bai Heo, and instructed Bai Qingcheng. Bai Yu, Tsunade, Uchiha Makoto, and Terumi Mei began the action plan for Konoha's counterattack. The first village Bai Yu wanted to go to was the Iwagakure. Why? Because the old Mananoki was too cowardly. In fact, Bai Yu admired the Cloud Village the most, because the Cloud Village was really destructive, unlike the old Mananoki, who only used some shady tricks. On the day Bai Yu went out, Bai Ying and Bai Heo went to school, because Bai Yu said, when he left that, if Bai Yu didn't come back in the next few days, they would go to school first, and wait for him to come back to continue training. Hey. Third sister. Bai Heo. Long time no see. Uzumaki Naruto still greeted him in the same sunny way. Yeah. You're back. Bai Ying greeted and returned to her seat. Uzumaki Naruto was not surprised to see this, because Bai Ying has always been like this. But he hooked Bai Heo's shoulder and said meanly, you are freed from the torture. Not yet. If my father hadn't gone out to fight, I guess I would have faced more severe training today. Bai said helplessly. I heard that other villages are causing trouble again. Uzumaki Naruto whispered. I don't know. My father and mother returned to their rooms as soon as they came back yesterday. They left early in the morning without saying anything. Bai said. Is it true? My mother came home yesterday and took out all her long forgotten ninja tools and clothes in a hurry. She oiled and polished them. She was busy until very late before leaving. Uzumaki Naruto said puzzledly. Hey. My mother and others take out my family's ninja tools every once in a while for maintenance. They said that they would save time when they are needed. I didn't expect that they would really be used. But my father's long sword is hung on his waist every day. Bai said with a smile. What do you think? Should we go and take a look secretly? I heard that the battle is very grand. Although it can't be compared to the battlefield, it should not be small in scale. Uzumaki Naruto leaned over and whispered in Bai's ear. Bai's eyes lit up when he heard this. Okay. I don't know if it's a good idea to skip today's class. Bai also said with an intention. I've already found out. Today is an outdoor training class. Once we leave the teaching building, we'll go to the old place and climb out. The training ground is big anyway, so we can just come back soon after training. Uzumaki Naruto said with a smile. Bai high-fived Uzumaki Naruto with a smile on his face, exuding the aura of a good friend. Chapter 308 No Name. Two small figures jumped out from the wall in the corner of the ninja school. Out. Uzumaki Naruto and Bai smiled and clapped their hands. Where are you going? A familiar voice came into their ears, and Uzumaki Naruto and Bai froze instantly. Their faces turned pale. This voice was Iruka. Iruka walked in front of Uzumaki Naruto and Bai with a gloomy face. Dong dong, one of them hit him on the forehead. We know we were wrong, Teacher Iruka. Uzumaki Naruto and Bai lowered their heads in pain. After Uzumaki Naruto finished speaking, he secretly thought that he was unlucky. He had been very cautious, so how could he still be discovered? Exclamation mark. However, when Bai saw Iruka's feet, he was obviously stunned. Something was wrong. How could a man turn his feet inward? Bai glanced at Iruka's actions at this time with his peripheral vision without making a sound. Iruka put his hands on his belly. Although his tone was a little angry, because Bai and Uzumaki Naruto lowered their heads, Iruka actually smiled gently. Bai suddenly felt that what he found was familiar, and a person suddenly flashed in his mind. Third sister? Exclamation mark. Third sister. Bai raised his head and said quickly, ah. Iruka was stunned and responded unconsciously. Bai smiled immediately, looking at the fake Iruka in front of him. Uzumaki Naruto also noticed that something was wrong at this time, and he also looked up at Iruka. The fake Iruka also covered his forehead helplessly at this time, revealing his true face. It was Bai. Third sister. Hi, you scared me. I thought it was Teacher Iruka. Uzumaki Naruto said with a sunny smile again. It seems that when I imitate others in the future, I have to pay attention to my behavior. Bai rubbed the scattered hair on his forehead and said with a smile. This smile made Uzumaki Naruto stunned and then smiled. Idiot. What are you laughing at? This yards. Bai saw Uzumaki Naruto's look, said unhappily, and then poked him again. Ah. Nothing. I suddenly found that the third sister is so beautiful. Uzumaki Naruto touched the back of his head awkwardly and said. I'm telling you. You have no chance. This is my third sister. Bai crossed his arms, raised his head, and said unhappily. What are you talking about? I have someone I like. Uzumaki Naruto blushed and said hurriedly. It's that guy named Hiruno Sakura. Bai heard it and said hurriedly. How do you know? No, it's not her. How is it possible? Uzumaki Naruto was about to admit it in surprise, but when he saw Bai's expression, he immediately argued stubbornly. Hey, where are you two going? Bai looked at Bai and Uzumaki Naruto, the two idiots, and said unhappily. We plan to go to the official road to see if there is a possible battle. Uzumaki Naruto said hurriedly. Where are we going? What kind of battle will there be? Bai asked curiously. No way. Third sister, heyo, do you really know nothing? Uzumaki Naruto said in surprise. Didn't I tell you this morning? Bai said helplessly. Yeah, if you two hadn't ignored me and talked about skipping classes next to me, I wouldn't even know what you two were going to do. Bai pursed her lips and said softly. It must be said that Bai's voice is always soft no matter when, whether she is angry or not. Okay, I thought you were joking with me this morning. I don't know much, I just heard it from my parents. Uzumaki Naruto put his hands in his pockets and said helplessly, and then told some of the actions that took place this morning. No wonder daddy and the women went out early in the morning. So that's it. After hearing this, Bai suddenly realized. Hearing what you said, why should we go to the official road? They are all wandering ninjas and rebel ninjas. Their strength should not be very good, right? The highlight should be the area bordering the 3 villages. Bai frowned and asked in confusion. It's too far from the village, and we may not be able to get back after training. Otherwise, do you think I don't want to? Uzumaki Naruto said with a sneer. Bai frowned and thought for a while, then his eyes lit up. Got it. Bai slapped his thigh and said excitedly. Naruto, you go to the official road by yourself, and my third sister and I will go to the highlight. Bai said eagerly. Is this your good idea? I want to go too. Uzumaki Naruto said with his eyes wide open. Bai touched his head awkwardly. How about this? Let's go around the official road. I remember there is an official road right where the rock village and Konoha border. And it's closer to Konoha. Let's go there. Bai thought for a while and said. My third sister is still wise. Unlike some people. TSK. Uzumaki Naruto heard it and immediately looked at Bai with contempt and said. Asshole. What's that look of yours? Bai looked at Uzumaki Naruto's contemptuous eyes and immediately laughed and scolded unhappily. Bai was walking steadily in front with a gentle smile on her face, while Bai and Uzumaki Naruto were following behind them, playing and joking. As for how to get out of Konoha village, this would definitely not be a problem for the 3 of them. If they have been in the village for so long and don't even know a safe route, then it would be in vain. One is the son of the Hokage, and the other 2 are Bai Yu's children. If they don't have this ability, then it would really be a slap in the face for me. Just when the 3 of them were about to reach the exit of the safe route, they found a small figure running towards the exit quickly. Bai, and Uzumaki Naruto were stunned. Uzumaki Naruto hurriedly shouted, "Stop! Don't run!" Only to see that the figure ran faster. Idiot. Aren't you trying to alert the enemy? What are you shouting for? Bai rolled his eyes at Uzumaki Naruto, said something unhappily, and then chased after him. Bai also didn't say anything and chased after him. Asshole. Who are you calling an idiot? Although Uzumaki Naruto said these words indignantly, his slightly red face showed that he realized that his shouting just now was indeed a bit idiotic. Uzumaki Naruto also caught up quickly. Speaking of which, Uzumaki Naruto's physique inherited the physique of the Uzumaki clan. He has a lot of chakra, and his perception is much stronger than that of ordinary ninjas. Moreover, although he has never practiced the control of chakra, it is much stronger than others. It's just that his IQ is really off sometimes. The 3 of them chased after him quickly, but the closer they got, the more they felt that the figure in front of them looked familiar. It seemed like an acquaintance. When the 3 of them chased the figure in front of them and ran out of the range of Konoha, the figure in front stopped. Bai, and Uzumaki Naruto took a closer look. Their faces changed drastically. They couldn't help but exclaimed. Chapter 309 Uchiha Sasuke. A fight broke out. Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke. Ice. Seeing that cold face, Bai, and Uzumaki Naruto shouted in surprise. Yeah. Uchiha Sasuke responded coolly with one hand in his pocket. The BGM sounded inexplicably. Ice. Why are you here? Uzumaki Naruto pinched his nose and said arrogantly with great disdain. Idiot. Uchiha Sasuke responded with 2 words. Asshole. How dare you call me an idiot? It's so hateful. Heyo, don't stop me. I'm going to teach him a lesson today. When Uzumaki Naruto heard this, he was immediately angry and rushed up to beat Uchiha Sasuke, but was stopped by Beiheo. After hearing what Uzumaki Naruto said, Beiheo let go of his hand calmly. Okay, go ahead. Beiheo said calmly, then put his hands on his chest and encouraged Uzumaki Naruto with his eyes. Uzumaki Naruto was stunned for a moment by Beiheo's magic operation. After being dodged like this, his anger disappeared and he didn't know what to do. Uzumaki Naruto stood there awkwardly, maintaining a forward movement. Uchiha Beiying couldn't help but laugh when she saw this. This laugh even stunned Uchiha Sasuke, who was relatively cold, but then returned to normal. Uzumaki Naruto smiled again. Hey, what are you doing? Put away your smiling face. Beiheo was unwilling and said unhappily. Ahem, sorry, I was stunned. Third sister is so beautiful. Did you forget that I have someone I like? Uzumaki Naruto coughed twice awkwardly and then explained. I know, Hiruno Sakura. The girl with pink hair and a high forehead. Beiheo said with a smile on his face. No, you, Heyo, don't talk nonsense. Uzumaki Naruto blushed and stammered when he heard it. Uchiha Sasuke, who was standing by, felt uncomfortable when he heard Beiheo and Uzumaki Naruto mention Hiruno Sakura, and when he heard that Uzumaki Naruto liked Hiruno Sakura, he frowned and turned to leave. Hey, Sasuke, where are you going? Beiheo asked when he saw Uchiha Sasuke was leaving. Kill stray ninjas and rebel ninjas. Uchiha Sasuke said coldly as he walked away. You, haha, you are so ridiculous little ice cube. Uzumaki Naruto put his hands on his hips and shouted with extreme disdain. Idiot. A cold and sarcastic word came out of Uchiha Sasuke's mouth and entered Uzumaki Naruto's ears. Asshole. Damn it. I must teach you a lesson today. Uzumaki Naruto quickly caught up with Uchiha Sasuke, stopped Uchiha Sasuke, and then punched him. Uchiha Sasuke would naturally not surrender and sit there waiting to die. He stretched out his hand to block Uzumaki Naruto's attack and then kicked back. At the same time, in Uzumaki Naruto's mind, there flashed the image of Hiruno Sakura always surrounding Uchiha Sasuke, but Uchiha Sasuke was dismissive. Besides, I have to wake you up for Hiruno Sakura. Do you know that she is full of enthusiasm to face you, but you respond with cold disgust? Do you know how uncomfortable she is? But she still insists on you, but you. Uzumaki Naruto couldn't help but scold when he was fighting with Uchiha Sasuke. Idiot. Uchiha Sasuke said coldly. Yes, I'm an idiot. I know that my Sakura doesn't like me, but I still like her. But it's better than you, a cold and inhuman guy. Uzumaki Naruto scolded. The battle became more and more intense. Ah. Poor Hinata. Listening to Uzumaki Naruto's words, Beiheo, who was watching the battle, couldn't help but think of Hyuga Hinata, who always looked at Uzumaki Naruto, and fainted when she looked at Uzumaki Naruto. Beiheo couldn't help but sigh. Hinata? Beiying asked doubtfully. Beiheo then told Beiying with great excitement the tangled, uncomfortable, and super sad story between Hinata, Uzumaki Naruto, Hiruno Sakura, and Uchiha Sasuke. After listening to it, Beiying frowned. These two guys are not good guys. You are not a good guy either. Beiying said, glared at Beiheo, said ruthlessly, and then stopped talking. Oh my god, this can even scratch me? Beiheo's eyes widened when he heard Beiying's words, and he exclaimed helplessly in his heart. Third sister, what's wrong with me? How can I not be a good thing? I'm a good thing. No, I'm a thing. No, I'm not a thing. No, I'm a good person. A great good person. Beiheo immediately said to Beiying anxiously. Beiying glanced at Beiheo coldly and whispered two words, Shienshin. Beiheo suddenly felt powerless, shrugged, looked at Beiying with a sad face, and struggled for a long time. Third sister, do you really like me every day? Beiheo asked doubtfully. Nonsense, why did dad hit you on the head that day? You have to loek. Beiying said unhappily. It's not my fault. Look at my eldest brother, who was fooled all his life by someone for a lunch. Look at my second sister, who has been childhood sweethearts since childhood, but was controlled by someone. Look at us. Do we have very favorable conditions? I don't know, and you can't blame me. Beiheo said helplessly. Besides, if you say that to me, you are not a good thing either. Beiheo suddenly thought of something, and then said generously, Heoa, what did you say? Do you dare to say it again? Beiying's white forehead was immediately left with 3 black lines, and then a strange smile rose, and she said softly, I said, I won't say good things a second time. I also saw Hyuga Niji secretly looking at you. You are also indifferent, okay? Beiheo was timid at first, and then said timidly, how can it be the same? I don't know, and besides, a glance doesn't mean anything. I think you really are. I haven't beaten you for a long time, so you don't know your third sister's temper. Beiying moved lightly, moved her fair wrist, approached Beiheo, and said coldly, third sister. I was wrong. AWW. Beiheo was completely scared when he saw Beiying coming over and begged for mercy, but begging for mercy was ineffective. For a while, 2 battles broke out in this small area. On one side, Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke were fighting fiercely. On the other side, Beiying was unilaterally ravaging Beiheo. From childhood to adulthood, Beiheo's psychological shadows were all Beiying. It's not that Beiheo can't beat Beiying, but that Beiheo actually has some sister control and some submissive personality. But he is not perverted to have a crush on his sister, he just loves his sister more. At this moment, swoosh, several figures stopped moving not far from the 4 people, lurking quietly, watching the 4 people who were fighting fiercely. Chapter 310, Naruto and Sasuke's love-hate relationship. A total of 6 ninjas with stern faces quietly stood on the tree next to them, watching Beiying, Beiheo, Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke fighting in the open field. It seemed that these 6 ninjas should be Iwagakure ninjas. Captain, according to my perception, these 4 kids have very little chakra, and they should be low-level ninjas who have not graduated. An Iwagakure ninja put his hands together, sensed for a while, and then flashed, and quietly came to the leading ninja and said softly, I know. Iwagakure, 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 make a quick decision. Get rid of these little ghosts, there are still tasks to be done. The leading captain said to the 2 genin in the group. The captain of this team of Iwagakure ninjas is a jonin, 3 chunins, and 2 genins. Yes. Iwagakure and Iwagakure nodded without any extra nonsense, and threw several Kyune shurikens at Beiying, Beiheo, Uzumaki Naruto, and Uchiha Sasuke, and rushed towards the 4 people at the same time. Swoosh, a series of dense sounds of breaking wind made Beiying, Beiheo, Uzumaki Naruto, and Uchiha Sasuke frown, stop fighting, and start avoiding hidden weapons. Who is it? Uzumaki Naruto shouted, very annoyed. He could have taught this inhuman guy a lesson, but he was stopped. Little did he know that at this time, Uzumaki Naruto's nose and face were swollen, and his body was dirty. On the other hand, Uchiha Sasuke successfully protected his face, but his body was a little messy. HMPH. Yanwu and Yanliu snorted coldly, and took out a shuriken from the ninja tool bag with his backhand, each holding a shuriken, and rushed towards the 4 people. Yanwu rushed towards Beiying and Beiheo, and Yanliu rushed towards Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke. The battle was about to break out. Yanwu took the lead in the battle. Since Bai Yu had not yet made weapons for Beiying and Beiheo, the 2 also took out the shuriken they trained in daily life, and fought with Yanwu. Although Beiying and Beiheo are still studying in the ninja school, and have not become genin. However, don't forget that both of them are Bai Yu's children, and they have advantages over the natives in terms of genes. Although Beiying and Beiheo's chakra is not very strong due to the Bai family's great method, the quality of the chakra is high and their physical strength is much stronger than their peers. Especially Beiheo, his strength is comparable to Baiki in the past, but there is no caring person to make lunch for him, so it is always a little worse. But this is enough. After a few rounds of fierce fighting with Beiying and Beiheo, Yanwu's brows began to frown slightly. He felt the difference between Beiying and Beiheo. On the other hand, Yan and Iyu's battle was relatively easy. The cooperation between Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke is really terrible compared to Beiying and Beiheo's siblings. Idiot. Who are you attacking? If you want to fight, wait until you get rid of this guy. I will fight with you to the end. Uchiha Sasuke dodged Uzumaki Naruto's flying kick and cursed. Uchiha Sasuke just finished cursing. He found that Yanryu had a weakness and kicked out quickly, aiming at Yanryu's weak spot. Bang! A powerful whip kick. The kick hit, but, arsehole, Sasuke, who are you kicking? Uzumaki Naruto covered the soft flesh on his waist, tears almost came out of his eyes, and shouted angrily, idiot, who told you to block there? If you didn't block, I would have dealt with him. Uchiha Sasuke also cursed unyieldingly. Are you blind? Wasn't I dodging his attack just now? You deserved it for not opening your Sharingan. You're so blind. Uzumaki Naruto cursed with an angry face. What did you say? Say it again, if you have the guts. It just so happened that Uzumaki Naruto just touched the bottom line of Uchiha Sasuke's heart. At Uchiha Sasuke's age, Uchiha Itachi already had a 3 Megatama Sharingan, but Uchiha Sasuke hadn't opened his Sharingan yet, which is why Uchiha Sasuke cares about his own strength. What if I say it again? Do you want to fight again? Uzumaki Naruto said unwillingly. Idiot, you are worthy of being the descendant of Jinchuriki. Your personality is really bad. Uchiha Sasuke also turned on the venomous tongue mode. Blind beater. If you have the guts, say it again. The weak point in Uzumaki Naruto's heart was also triggered by Uchiha Sasuke. He looked at Uchiha Sasuke with blazing eyes. The descendant of Jinchuriki with a bad personality. Uchiha Sasuke looked at Uzumaki Naruto coldly and said every word in a clear and loud voice. Damn it, idiot. After that, the two began to love and kill each other again. There is no need to say more about wanting to kill. Why do you say love? Because although both of them are furious and their moves are fierce, they hold back and do not kill each other because for some reason, both of them feel that if they kill each other, they will feel very uncomfortable. At this moment, Yanryu was stunned. Then Yanryu was furious. Are you kidding me? I came here to kill you, but you guys started fighting among yourselves. Isn't that too disrespectful? Is my threat level so low? Hey, you two, you must be kidding me. Yanryu couldn't help but shouted indignantly. Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke stopped instantly. Wait a minute to deal with this guy. I must teach you a lesson. Don't do it. Uzumaki Naruto said angrily, facing Yanryu. Idiot, leave this guy to me. You can't do it. Deal with this guy. I'll deal with you. Uchiha Sasuke said coldly, and then looked at Yanryu. Sasuke. Idiot. Humph. Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke glared at each other, shouted at each other angrily, then snorted and turned their heads away, not looking at each other. You're going too far. Yanryu's anger level soared. He rushed towards Uchiha Sasuke, because in Yanryu's eyes, Uchiha Sasuke's threat level was much higher than Uzumaki Naruto. Damn it. Why didn't you attack me? Uzumaki Naruto saw that he was being ignored. Seeing this, Uzumaki Naruto also joined the battle. Idiot. Where did you hit? Blind beater. Are you really blind? Blind beater, you kicked me. Idiot. You hit my face. Sister, tell me, why do I always feel that they are a pair? After a long time, Bai-Ing and Bai-Heio stood beside Yanwu's body, watching Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto fight Yanryu. Bai-Heio pursed his lips and asked in confusion. I think so too. But why do I feel that they are more like doing it on purpose? Bai-Ing also said in confusion. Bai-Heio didn't say anything when he heard Bai-Ing's words, but watched more seriously for a while. Sure enough, Bai-Heio found that the whip kick that Uzumaki Naruto kicked at Uchiha Sasuke was more powerful than when he attacked Yanryu. On the other hand, Uchiha Sasuke made a powerful mid-air split, as if deliberately aiming at the back of Uzumaki Naruto's head. It felt as if Uchiha Sasuke and Ganryu had joined forces to attack Uzumaki Naruto. Bai-Ing and Bai-Heio looked at each other, smiled bitterly, and said nothing. The love between these two people was too cruel. It hurts. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311, Naruto and Sasuke's love-hate relationship. Enough. Bastards. Bastards. Yanryu looked at Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto with red eyes, and shouted angrily, tears welling up in his eyes. Uchiha Sasuke frowned and looked at Yan Liu. Was he scared? Then how did I accidentally hurt Uzumaki Naruto? Uzumaki Naruto also looked at Yan Liu. Please continue fighting. It feels so good to secretly attack Uchiha Sasuke. Yan Liu has been fighting for so long, and he can see that these two people are using him as an excuse to fight each other. Yan Liu took out a short knife from his back, pointed it at his abdomen, and slashed it. He fell to the ground, lowered his head, and his body twitched for a while, and then he stopped breathing. Oh my god, no way! Exclamation mark. Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto's pupils shrank, and they looked at Yan Wu. This guy's mental quality is too bad. Bai Yu and Bai Yu on the side for Yan Liu. Poor guy. Damn it, it's really embarrassing for the Rock Village. The leader hiding in the corner looked at the fate of Rock 5 and Rock 6, and cursed in his heart. Rock 2, Rock 3, Rock 4, quickly resolve the battle. The leader ordered angrily. Yes. Rock 2, Rock 3, Rock 4 responded expressionlessly, and their figures disappeared in an instant. Earth escape, Earth formation stab, Earth escape, Earth sink, Earth escape, Rock fall. The Chunin ninja's move was indeed different from the Genin. 3 people, 3 ninjutsu, suddenly attacked Bai Yu, Bai Yu, Uchiha Sasuke, and Uzumaki Naruto. The 4 people felt cold in their hearts because they didn't know ninjutsu. In fact, the most uncomfortable one was Uchiha Sasuke. In fact, he could release a fire escape, but it took too long to seal. Run. Bai Yu reacted immediately. After shouting, he pulled Bai Yu and ran. Bai Yu also reacted, and actually pulled Bai Yu in return, and ran away quickly. Uchiha Sasuke also left quickly. However, out of the corner of his eye, Uchiha Sasuke saw Uzumaki Naruto standing there, motionless. Obviously, Uzumaki Naruto hasn't reacted yet. Uchiha Sasuke didn't want to care about Uzumaki Naruto, but the image of Uzumaki Naruto standing there stupidly kept lingering in his mind. Uchiha Sasuke frowned, and turned back suddenly. He grabbed Uzumaki Naruto by the back of his neck, and threw him aside. He thought Uzumaki Naruto would be able to react, but when he saw Uzumaki Naruto staring at him stupidly, Uchiha Sasuke was so angry. Run. Idiot. Uchiha Sasuke shouted angrily. Sasuke, why did you save me? Uzumaki Naruto stared at Uchiha Sasuke blankly, puzzled. He thought he was dead. From beginning to end, he never thought that Uchiha Sasuke would turn around to save him. Idiot. Uchiha Sasuke's pupils shrank and he yelled. Because he saw the ground next to Uzumaki Naruto was surging, which was a sign that the Earth Array Thorns were about to be activated. Uchiha Sasuke gritted his teeth, and with a flash of body, he came to Uzumaki Naruto's side, and in an instant, he pushed Uzumaki Naruto away. Puff puff puff. Uzumaki Naruto watched helplessly as Uchiha Sasuke was hit by 3 Earth Thorns in order to save himself, and blood burst on his face. One pierced Uchiha Sasuke's left calf, and one pierced Uchiha Sasuke's right thigh, only a fist away from the vital point. One pierced into the lower abdomen. Sasuke. Uzumaki Naruto's eyes unconsciously shed tears. Idiot. Hurry. Run. Call for help. Uchiha Sasuke said in a low voice, enduring the severe pain in his body. Haha. Little guy, you are such an idiot. You have a chance to avoid death, but you are such an idiot. You call others idiots, but you are even more of an idiot. Yana, the ninja who released the earth spike, appeared not far from Uchiha Sasuke, looked at Uchiha Sasuke with disdain and said sarcastically, since you want to die so much, I will send you off. A trace of ferocity flashed in Yana's eyes, and his hands quickly formed seals. Earth escape, thrust. Yana shouted loudly. This is a single attack ninjutsu. An earth spike extends from the ground and stabs the enemy. Sasuke. Uzumaki Naruto shouted. Sister. They probably didn't get out. I'll go back to save them. You go find my big brother and second sister. On the way to escape, Bai Yu broke away from Bai Yu's hand and said with a serious face. Don't make trouble, Heiwa. They are Chunin. You can't beat them. Bai Yu was shocked and said anxiously. If Bai Yu goes back now, isn't this going to die? Sister, look what this is. Bai Yu smiled slightly and swiped from his ninja bag, and Bai Yu's dragon sword instantly appeared in his hand. Isn't this Dad's sword? Why is it in your hand? Bai Yu asked with a sudden relief. Before dad left, he gave me this dragon sword. This is not a real dragon sword. Dad sealed a sword technique in an ordinary sword. It can be used once and will be useless after use. This shape was made by dad. Bai said with a smile. Really? Although Bai didn't know when Bai Yu gave it to him, she subconsciously believed it when she saw this dragon sword. Although she was still a little confused, she didn't think too much. Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you at the critical moment of life and death? Bai said helplessly. Okay then. You must be careful. I will speed up to find my eldest brother and second sister. Bai said hurriedly. Got it, third sister. Bai said with a smile. Bai nodded and left quickly. Bai showed a bitter smile on his face, and the dragon sword in his hand instantly turned into an ordinary shuriken. Third sister, please forgive me. I don't want my brothers to block the enemy, so that I can live in disgrace. Otherwise, I guess you won't believe me. Sorry. Bai said in his heart. His face sank, and he turned back, and went to the place where Uzumaki, Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke were attacked. Naruto? Uchiha Sasuke's pupils shrank, and the blood on his face was still hot. Obviously he had just appeared. The scene in front of him touched his heart. Uzumaki Naruto used the instant body technique to block the earth thorn that attacked him. The sharp earth thorn pierced Uzumaki Naruto's right chest fiercely. Uchiha Sasuke murmured subconsciously. Sasuke, I admit that I'm an idiot. Ahem. But just now, I decided that, if I can survive, you, Uchiha Sasuke, will definitely be my lifelong friend. Uzumaki Naruto said this, and suddenly a familiar roar came from a distance. Sasuke, Naruto, hold on. I'm coming. Bai also arrived. And Bai, you will be my best friends for life. If I'm still alive. Uzumaki Naruto said with a smile, and slowly closed his eyes. He lowered his head. Asshole, idiot. Who wants to be your best friend? Idiot. Uchiha Sasuke was deeply shocked. Although he looked miserable, he had completely avoided the fatal attack, but this idiot in front of him actually blocked the fatal blow for him regardless. Uchiha Sasuke's eyes began to change. Sasuke. Naruto. Damn it. Bai saw the appearance of the two people, and he was furious and roared angrily. Chapter 312 Bai awakens. Damn it. You actually killed my brother to such an extent. Damn it. It's really damned. Bai looked at the tragic scene in front of him, trembling all over, and the veins on the hand holding the shuriken were also bulging. At this time, Bai's eyes were red, and when he said this, his tone was extremely cold, like a demon from hell. Wisps of black air came out of Bai's body. Bai raised an evil smile on his face. Heyo. Run. 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 Uchiha Sasuke began to weaken due to excessive blood loss at this time. Seeing Bai coming, a complicated look flashed in his eyes. The proud him naturally felt uncomfortable, because he could not save Bai and Uzumaki Naruto. However, at this point, he had no choice. Uncharacteristically, he used his last breath of strength to say to Bai, run. The changes in Uchiha Sasuke's eyes had already stopped, and they were fixed at the double Magatama Sharingan. In fact, if Bai did not appear, it is very likely that he would be promoted to 3 Magatama, but it was God's will, and the author could not tell Uchiha Sasuke too much. Brother, don't worry. They will all die today. Not only the 3 of them, but also the guy hiding over there. They will all die. Haha. They will all die. Bai raised his face, pointed to the woods in the distance, and said frivolously. Yansen and Yancy also came to Yana at this time. Seeing Bai's appearance at this time, they couldn't help but feel a little scared. At this time, Bai's body was slowly steaming with increasingly dense black air. Under his red eyes, a pair of half black and half white pupils were shining with evil light. People dared not look directly at him. In this case, I'll leave it to you. Although Uchiha Sasuke didn't believe Bai at this time, he smiled and said something when he saw Bai's appearance, and then fainted. Leave it to me. Brothers. Don't worry, you won't die. They are the ones who are going to die. The red color in Bai's eyes became even stronger, and he walked towards Uchiha Sasuke. Bai ignored Yana, Yansan, and Yancy, walked to Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto, and waved his hand. A ball of black gas eroded the earth thorns and vaporized them directly. This ball of black gas was very precise and did not erode the bodies of the two. Damn it. Yana saw Beiheio's actions and his face was also angry. He quickly formed seals with both hands. Earth escape, 100 earth thorns. Yana shouted suddenly. The ground within 100 meters of Beiheio was surging. The earth thorns seemed to have eyes and stabbed Beiheio at a fast speed. However, Beiheio seemed to have not seen it and caught Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto who were sliding down and carried them on his shoulders. Just when the earth thorns were about to pierce Beiheio, the black gas on Beiheio's body, like having eyes, wrapped the earth thorns and eroded and vaporized them. Yansen and Yancy also changed their expressions and quickly formed seals. Earth escape, ground crack. Earth escape, rock wall formation. The ground under Beiheio's feet quickly cracked a crack and then slowly expanded. In the four directions around Beiheio, a wall of earth quickly rose, squeezing towards Beiheio. Very fast. Boom. The four walls crashed together. Just when Yana, Yansan, and Yancy thought that Beiheio and the other two were completely wiped out and showed a smug smile, their smiles stopped. The black air emanating from Beiheio enveloped Beiheio. Wherever Beiheio passed, all the earth walls and earth spikes he encountered were corroded and vaporized. Beiheio put Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto aside. Beiheio then faced Yana, Yansan, and Yancy. You are really good. Really. Thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to awaken this pair of Dharma Eyes. Now I will let you try the power of the Dharma Eyes. Beiheio closed his red eyes, stretched out his hands, and then whispered. The black aura on Beiheio's body slowly turned into grey. The power of Yang, the master of life. Beiheio suddenly opened his eyes. At this time, his eyes were still red, and his black and white eyes revealed a shock that hit his heart. Beiheio said softly, and waved his hand. A ball of white light enveloped Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. The wounds on Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto began to heal. The dried blood on their clothes became as fresh as if they had just flowed out and quickly returned to their bodies. However, due to excessive blood loss, they did not wake up and were still in a coma. The power of Yin, the master of death. When Beiheio said this, a cold breath filled the air around them. The feeling of being enveloped by death made Yana, Yansan, and Yancy close to collapse. Beiheio waved his hand, and a ball of black air quickly enveloped Yana, Yansan, and Yancy. Yana, Yansan, and Yancy felt as if their internal organs were being burned by fire. The pain that struck their souls made the three people start to howl. Curled up on the ground, the bodies of the three people also began to age until they turned into dried corpses. Yin and Yang combine. I decide life and death. Go to hell. Beiheio's eyes turned grey. With his hands together, he gently pushed the leader who was hiding in the dense forest. A grey beam of light suddenly shot out from Beiheio's palm, going straight to the leader. However, although Beiheio had awakened the Dharma Eye, his own strength was still not enough. All the trees where the grey light beam passed were vaporized. The parts that were not vaporized also withered, and Beiheio's face became more and more rosy. The reason why the trees withered was because Beiheio absorbed the remaining vitality in the trees. Life force is something that is naturally beneficial to absorb, but absorbing too much will cause backlash. Beiheio is at a critical point at this time. If he absorbs vitality, he may be backlashed. Opening the Dharma Eye will naturally open the Dharma Eye space, but at this time Beiheio only knows how to use his ability, but does not know how to use the Dharma Eye space. If Bai Yu is here and encounters this situation, he will definitely absorb the excess vitality into the Dharma Eye space and absorb it slowly. The leader naturally knew that Beiheio had attacked him, but a Jonin was a Jonin after all, with good combat awareness and strength. At this time, with the speed of the grey light column, it would definitely be too late to seal. The leader took out a mini scroll from behind, quickly pounced on the tree trunk, then bit his thumb, and scratched it on the scroll. Unlock. A huge earth wall emerged from the scroll, and almost instantly, a 3-meter high wall was formed. There was a faint metallic texture on the earth wall. It looked very solid. When the earth wall was formed, the grey light column That is, the attack rushed over, and the moment it rushed towards the earth wall began to vaporize. But the vaporization speed was very slow. After a while, the gray light column disappeared, and the earth wall stopped vaporizing. Chapter 313 Baiing Awakens. Baiheo's face was emitting an unhealthy red flush. He began to half kneel on the ground and gasped, and a few red bloodshot eyes appeared. This was different from the angry congestion just now. This was overexertion. The yin and yang power had just awakened, and it was consumed like this. It must not work. The leader was also shocked by Baiheo's attack. Is this a low-level ninja? Exclamation mark. However, seeing Baiheo half kneeling on the ground and gasping, his self-confidence returned. That kind of confidence in his strength reoccupied the high ground and slowly walked towards Baiheo. Bang! A whip kick kicked Baiheo away. Haha. You can't do it either. Where is the arrogant look just now? The leader walked towards Baiheo again and said arrogantly. Bang! Another whip kick kicked Baiheo away. Hit me. Come and hit me. Haha. The leader saw Baiheo lying on the ground like a dead dog, gasping constantly, and that perverted mentality of playing and abusing gradually rose. Bang, bang, crack. This time the leader kicked Baiheo against the tree, and the tree broke as thick as a person. However, what the leader did not notice was that although Baiheo was attacked, his face gradually changed from an unhealthy red flush to a healthy red flush. In fact, Baiheo was secretly glad in his heart. Fortunately, the leader was torturing him and did not kill him with one blow. Unfortunately, he disguised himself well. Baiheo was attacked and would naturally be hurt, but Baiheo found that he absorbed the extra vitality and healed all his injuries. If you have the guts, you will keep torturing me. If you don't have the guts, just give me a quick death. Trash. Baiheo thought about it slightly in his heart and said angrily to the leader weakly. Looking at Baiheo's miserable appearance, the leader did not realize that this was a play by Baiheo. He just felt that Baiheo was really in trouble at this time. He didn't want to be tortured and wanted him to give Baiheo a quick death. Impossible. I will torture you. Torture you to death. The leader stepped cruelly on Baiheo's face and said jokingly, "Arsehole, arsehole." Of course Baiheo would feel ashamed. Anyone who is stepped on would feel ashamed. But at this time, Baiheo could only use miserable acting skills to let this asshole attack him. Only in this way can Baiheo quickly consume the excessive vitality he has absorbed. Bang, bang, bang. In the process of being attacked, Baiheo was also silently feeling his body when the vitality reached normal. The leader was about to kick Baiheo again. A gleam of light flashed in Baiheo's eyes. Now, Baiheo said in his heart. The Dharma in Baiheo's eyes appeared. The black hair on his body rose again. Go to hell. Trash. Baiheo released all the yin power without reservation, enveloping the leader. The leader was enveloped by the black air, but the Jonin was a Jonin after all. The leader made a seal with both hands. The leader, who was enveloped by the black air, instantly turned into a piece of wood, appeared behind Baiheo. A shuriken with a cold light appeared in his hand. Damn you. Go to hell. The leader was about to stab Baiheo in the back with a ferocious look on his face. How dare you? Heioa. Zio Heio. Fourth brother. Ah. Heioa. 5 shouts came from a distance. They were Beiki, Achihirizumi, Achihiritachi, Baiheo, and Baiing. Baiing covered her mouth with an unbelievable look on her face, her eyes full of regret and anger. Only then did Baiing realize that Baiheo had lied to her. Daddy didn't leave him any powerful life-saving secrets. The 5 shouts scared the leader of the rock ninjas, but he also knew that his life was coming to an end. In an instant, he had a stronger killing intent towards Baiheo. Beiki and Achihiritachi secretly thought it was not good. Beiki quickly used the inch force and the instant body technique to jump up and rush towards the leader like a ghost. Achihiritachi also frowned and turned into a crow, flying towards the leader. Although Baiheo didn't have any major problems at this time, he was just exhausted. However, on the surface, he was covered in blood and looked extremely miserable. Everyone's attention was on Baiheo. No one noticed that Baiing's eyes were also black and white at this time, and a take-eye pattern appeared in her eyes. Go to hell. Baiing was furious at this time. Thinking about the bow and arrow condensed in Bai Yu's hand one day, a white bow suddenly appeared in his hand. Black arrow. Aiming at the leader of the rock ninja. The mental power was extremely concentrated. Swoosh, a sound of breaking through the air. The black arrow was like a stream of light. The last one to arrive first. Surpassed Uchiha Itachi. Baki. Nailed hard on the leader's temple. The leader's pupils shrank first. Then they expanded rapidly. Slowly lost focus and stopped breathing. The body leaned back and fell heavily to the ground. Baiheyo felt something. With a smile on his face, he raised his thumb to the side and then fainted. Baki stopped, turned around suddenly, and looked at Baiing blankly. Uchiha Itachi also looked at Baiing in disbelief. Uchiha Izumi and Baiyeyo also looked at Baiing suddenly. They were all surprised at Baiing's precise control of the yin and yang power. But at this time, Baiing fainted. The mental power consumed by condensing the bow and arrow made Baiing overdrawn instantly. And don't look at it just as a thin arrow. Baiing used all of her yin power and condensed it into an arrow. Otherwise, it would not be possible to kill a Jonin with one arrow from a long distance. The power is certain, especially the speed. How fast does it need to be to make a Jonin unable to react? Baki, Uchiha Itachi, Baiyeyo, Uchiha Izumi. The four people looked at Baiheyo, Baiing, Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto, and 6 corpses who were unconscious on the ground. Baki looked at each other and smiled helplessly. One by one, they carried the 4 unconscious people back to Konoha. This can be considered a blessing in disguise. Baki held Baiheyo, and Baiyeyo held Baiing. Baiyeyo said helplessly to Baki, "Humph. This brat, when he wakes up, I must teach him a lesson. He actually dared to seek death by doing such a dangerous thing." Baki looked at Baiheyo in his arms. Although his face was angry, his eyes were full of love and concern for his brother. That's right, if it weren't for this brat, how could Jinga do such a dangerous thing? Baiyeyo was also a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. Whether it was Baiheyo or Baiing, Baiyeyo felt very distressed at this time. It seems that I also need to discipline my brother. Uchiha Itachi heard what Baki and Baiyeyo said and expressed his agreement. Then this little guy, leave it to Lady Kushina. But we still have to notify Lord Hokage. Uchiha Izumi said with a smile at this time. Yes, and he even exaggerated it. Humph. Baki, Baiyeyo, and Uchiha Itachi said in unison. Of course, the culprit who hurt his younger brother and sister cannot be forgiven. However, there was no blame in the eyes of the 4 people. They just watched the show. Chapter 314 Shinling. After Baki, Baiyeyo, Uchiha Itachi, and Uchiha Makoto sent Baiheyo and the other 2 to the Konoha hospital, Uchiha Makoto ran to inform Minato Namikaze. After Minato Namikaze learned the news, he went to check the bodies of the ninjas from the Iwagakure village in person. When he saw the miserable state of the 6 bodies, the corners of his mouth twitched. The 2 genin were better off, one was killed, and the other committed seppuku, but the 4 chunin, tut, especially the leader whose head was already dry and black. These 4 little guys are really cruel. Minato Namikaze dealt with the bodies, and said with emotion. When Minato Namikaze rushed to the hospital, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto had already woken up. At this time, Uzumaki Naruto was happily watching Uchiha Sasuke being taught a lesson by Uchiha Itachi. This time, Uchiha Itachi was really distressed. His most beloved brother almost left him. Seeing that Uchiha Sasuke was completely healed, his inner emotions also changed from worry to anger. Sasuke, stand still. Uchiha Itachi's face was extremely serious. Let Uchiha Sasuke stand by the bed and look at him. Brother. Uchiha Sasuke's face turned red. How could he, who was so proud, want to be taught a lesson by Uchiha Itachi in front of Uzumaki Naruto next door? This time, I have to say you, Sasuke. It's so dangerous. What do you think? This is fine. What if something really happens? Have you thought about it? Uchiha Itachi looked at Uchiha Sasuke and said seriously. Brother, I'm fine. Uchiha Sasuke touched his nose and said helplessly. It's too late if something happens. Uchiha Itachi frowned and said. Brother, I actually gained something this time. Uchiha Sasuke thought of something and said happily. What gain? Uchiha Itachi asked. Brother, look. After Uchiha Sasuke finished speaking, he opened his double Magatama Sharingan. Uchiha Itachi's pupils shrank when he saw the double Magatama Sharingan in Uchiha Sasuke's eyes. Brother, is this your first time opening your eyes, or have you opened them once before? Uchiha Itachi grabbed Uchiha Sasuke's shoulders and said excitedly, if the first time you open your eyes is with double Magatama, then it is very likely that you will directly open the main Jiki Sharingan next time. But if it is a single Magatama for the first time, then you can only follow the routine. It's the first time. Actually, I have to thank Uzumaki Naruto. When saying this, Uchiha Sasuke frowned, jealous and impatient. After struggling for a long time, he directly said thank you in front of Uzumaki Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto was originally watching the show secretly on the side. When he heard Uchiha Sasuke's conversation, he was stunned. In fact, Uchiha Sasuke is not as inhumane as imagined. Naive Uzumaki Naruto, if you have the guts, let Uchiha Sasuke follow the original work and see what the result will be. What are you thanking me for? Didn't I tell you that we are lifelong friends, brother? Uzumaki Naruto was stunned for a moment, then raised a sunny smile and said, TSK, who is your friend? Idiot. Uchiha Sasuke crossed his arms disdainfully, turned his face to the side, and then said arrogantly. But when he turned around, he didn't even notice that the corners of his mouth actually rose. You. After Uchiha Itachi was happy, the anger in his heart also subsided. He poked Uchiha Sasuke's forehead and walked out of the room. Brother. Uchiha Sasuke covered his forehead and shouted with dissatisfaction, like a spoiled child, and like enjoying it. Seeing Uchiha Itachi leave, Uchiha Sasuke ignored Uzumaki Naruto who was cooling off on the side, and lay on the bed, and began to think. His expression gradually cooled down. Sasuke. Why are you cold again? I felt that you were a little warm just now. Uzumaki Naruto was also full of energy at this time, and he came to Uchiha Sasuke, and frowned and said, Idiot. Uchiha Sasuke glared at Uzumaki Naruto, and said two words softly. What an unpleasant guy. Uzumaki Naruto curled his lips and said something, then he would go to his bed to recuperate quietly. Beiki, Baiyo, Uchiha Itachi, and Uchiha Raizumi were standing in front of Baiing and Baiheyo's beds at this time, frowning, not knowing what to do. Baiyo used his natural perception ability to sense the conditions of the two people. Except for the obvious weakness, there was nothing serious. Uchiha Itachi was also afraid that the two would fall into illusion, so he checked them specially, but it turned out that there was nothing wrong. He also called Yuhi Kurenoi to come and take a look. In addition to Uchiha Itachi, Yuhi Kurenoi was also very good at illusion. Nohara and Kato Shizune also came to check, and their bodies were the same as normal ninjas, or even better. But these two people just didn't wake up, which made Beiki and Baiyo particularly worried. 2 days later. Brother, what happened to Jinga and Heioa? Why haven't they woken up yet? Are they so overdrawn? Baiyo looked at Beiki with a worried look on his face. Now Bai Yu is not here, Tsunade is not here, Uchiha Makoto is not here, and Terumi Mei is not here either. The burden of the Bai mansion is on Beiki's shoulders. It shouldn't be a big deal. Wait for me, I'll think about it. Beiki frowned and said, and began to close his eyes and think. Suddenly, Beiki opened his eyes. He slapped his forehead hard. I'm so stupid. I actually forgot about Shinling. Beiki laughed at himself. Shinling? Baiyo, Uchiha Itachi, and Uchiha Raizumi all looked at Beiki. All along, the words used by Beiki in battle were earth spirits and human spirits. Beiki has never used Shinling, which can search for people and investigate. Shinling appears. Beiki's eyes suddenly opened, and a human-shaped phantom appeared in front of Beiki. Although it was not very clear, it was relatively transparent, and the clothes were a bit like on Miyagi. This is also because of the nourishment in Beiki's Dharma Eye space, so the visibility is higher like now. Shinling, find my father, tell him about Baiing and Baiheyo's situation, and ask how to treat them. Please Shinling. Beiki said. Shinling nodded, and then disappeared. Wait a moment. There should be news soon. Beiki said to Baiyo with a smile. Baiyo nodded, but the look in her eyes when she looked at Baiing and Baiheyo was still very worried. Baiyo leaned gently in Uchiha Itachi's arms. Uchiha Itachi naturally put his arm around Baiyo's shoulders. Uchiha Izumi took Beiki's hand and leaned her head on Beiki's shoulder. If Beiyo was awake at this time, he would definitely curse. "You are really my brother, sister, sister-in-law, and brother-in-law. I'm so ugly, and you still don't forget to show your affection? It's really a human thing, and you don't do it at all." After cursing, he vomited blood and fell into a coma again. Chapter 315. The Rock Village is in chaos. Bai Yu, why did you come to my Iwagakure to make trouble? At this time, the Iwagakure was in chaos. The Iwagakure building, which originally had a ceiling, was now shabby and a pure open-air food stall. Bai Yu sat on Anoki's office chair with a big sword. This was the only chair that was brand new. The others, were all chopped to pieces by Bai Yu. Anoki was panting at this time, looking at Bai Yu and questioning loudly. His body was tattered, and his hair was disheveled. There were many Iwagakure corpses piled up around the Iwagakure office building. "Why am I making trouble? Old man, you should know it in your heart, right? And you ask me? Really, you should abdicate," Bai Yu said lazily with his eyes narrowed. "Damn it, you have the guts to wait for me. I will let you taste my Deidara's ultimate art." Well, a young man with yellow hair and a ponytail and bangs covering half of his eyes looked at Bai Yu and said angrily. Deidara was angry, not because Bai Yu killed many Iwagakure ninjas, but because Bai Yu had just fully proved his contempt for Deidara's art. TSK, I didn't expect that in such a big Iwagakure village. Only you have some blood. Come on, let me see your ultimate art. Bai Yu said approvingly. "I didn't kill you in the 3 battles, but I will definitely kill you this time," Deidara said proudly. After that, Bai Yu returned a nonchalant smile. Seeing this, Deidara's anger value rose. He took out a large piece of white clay from his bag. He put the clay into his palm and began to chew it. After a while, a hidden power began to gather in Deidara's hand, which was sensed by Bai Yu. Bai Yu immediately became interested. "This is the most powerful clay bomb I can make so far. C2 Dragon. Die, Bai Yu," Deidara shouted madly. From Deidara's hand, a dragon made of clay flew out. Bai Yu looked at the giant dragon and couldn't help but admire it. Sure enough, geniuses can't be judged by common sense. Deidara's giant dragon actually has the will of a 3-point dragon. It has to be said that Deidara's talent is really strong. However, this is still not enough for Bai Yu. "Akalanatha," Bai Yu shouted. The golden Buddha statue's phantom lit up all over his body. Boom. There was a loud noise. The surrounding dust quickly floated up, and the area covered could not see what was going on inside. However, Anoki knew that the Rock Ninja office building was really left with nothing. After being bombed by Deidara, the dust gradually dissipated with the wind. Bai Yu was surrounded by yellow soil, and only some blue bricks could be seen near Bai Yu, and the office chair under Bai Yu's, but was still intact. "Ah. He didn't take my art away, huh?" Deidara said angrily. At the same time, Deidara also had respect for Bai Yu in his heart, which was respect for the strong. The most shocked person was Anoki. You know, Deidara is Anoki's apprentice. He knows the power of the clay bomb made by Deidara, especially the C2. Although he can block it, he can never do it to Bai Yu's level. "Tell you, old man Anoki, I came here today to teach you a lesson. Don't make some conspiracies against Konoha behind your back. Okay, no more nonsense. There are 2 more families to go. I have to go. The sooner I get it done, the sooner it will be done." After Bai Yu finished speaking, he stood up and prepared to leave. However, as the saying goes, if you startle the snake, you will see enemies everywhere. As soon as Bai Yu stood up, some emotionally unstable Iwagakure ninjas quickly took defense. Bai Yu smiled disdainfully and slowly rose into the air. "Master Bai Yu, take care." Bai Yu just rose in the air and heard someone calling him. Bai Yu immediately stood up. Anoki and other Iwagakure ninjas saw Bai Yu take off, and they couldn't help but feel relieved. Bai Yu was so terrifying that he could be called the second Uchiha Madara. In Anoki's childhood, he was dominated by the shadow of Uchiha Madara. A shadow appeared in front of Bai Yu, and Bai Yu's pupils shrank. "This is Xianling." He recognized him. At this moment, Xianling looked a little nervous. Could it be that Bai Yu was in trouble? Exclamation mark. Bai Yu didn't wait for Xianling to speak and hurriedly asked, Xianling, is Kia in trouble? Xianling shook his head. Bai Yu was relieved immediately. You scared me. If Kia is not in trouble, why are you so nervous? Bai Yu said unhappily. Is it the master? It's the master's sister and brother. Bai Ying and Bai Heo. Xianling said hurriedly. Isn't it Jinger and Heoa? Huh? What? Bai Yu didn't react at first, but after reacting, he was anxious and exerted a terrifying pressure on Xianling. Sir, your breath. Retract. Xianling said with difficulty. Bai Yu saw Xianling's look and quickly retracted some of his pressure. Xianling ignored adjusting his internal breath and quickly told Bai Ying and Bai Heo about the matter before he began to adjust himself. After listening to this, Bai Yu's eyes were full of anger. Rock ninja! Exclamation mark. You really don't take the road to heaven, but you insist on coming to hell. Xianling, go back and tell Kia that Jinger and Heo are just overdrawn in both mental power and yin and yang power. It's okay. Wait for me to go back. I'm going to the Rock Ninja village to continue to settle accounts. Bai Yu said in a gloomy tone. Yes, sir. Xianling responded and disappeared. Bai Yu took a deep breath and then exhaled. Although he was very angry, he had to say that Bai Yu was also very grateful to those blind rock ninjas. Although Xianling's words were not comprehensive, Bai Yu heard some key points clearly. What Bai Yu could not have imagined was that the yin and yang power contained in the awakened Dharma Eyes of Bai Ying and Bai Heo was even more mellow and terrifying than that of Bai Qi and Bai Yeo. However, after all, his children were tricked by someone, and his heart was still full of anger. Bai Yu landed quickly. The rock ninja noticed the abnormality in the sky, and when he saw Bai Yu's face clearly, they all showed bitter expressions. Why are you here again? Is it over yet? Oh. Bai Yu beat Inoki again, but did not kill Inoki, because when Bai Yu wanted to kill, he was restricted by the heaven and earth. Only when he did not want to kill, this restriction disappeared. You are lucky, old man. It is God's will. Next time you send someone to trick my descendants of Bai Yu, be careful that I will kill and slaughter the whole village directly. Bai Yu said a cruel word and left again. This time, everyone looked at the sky for a long time, until the afterglow of the setting sun shone on the earth, and then they trembled and cleaned up the debris of the village. At this moment, in Inoki's mind, the memory of being dominated by Uchiha Madara in his childhood and the scene of being dominated by Bai Yu just now kept flashing. Puff. Inoki spit out a mouthful of blood and fainted. It's such a kid-sama. Grandpa. Teacher. The Iwagakure village was in chaos again. Exclamation mark. Chapter 316. The Cloud Village is in turmoil. This should be the Cloud Village. Bai Yu looked at the ground under the sky and saw a building that was looming. He whispered, that's right, it's here. As he slowly approached, Bai Yu saw the tall Reikage building. TSK, it's quite domineering. After Bai Yu saw the building clearly, he raised a disdainful smile at the corner of his mouth. Sword control technique. I'm too lazy to name it. Go for it. Bai Yu floated in the air with disdain on his face, and with a casual move, the dragon sword flew in front of Bai Yu with a buzzing sound, and swelled against the wind. A giant sword more than 10 feet long appeared out of thin air, and the sword body was surrounded by purple and gold light. Report. Lord Reikage, a giant sword appeared out of thin air in the sky not far away outside. It looks like it should be heading for the Cloud Shadow building. A cloud ninja hurriedly pushed open the door of AI's office and said anxiously, what? Reikage AI bared his teeth and slammed the table with an angry face. Lord Reikage. A very powerful guy appeared in the sky above the Kumogakure village. Two young people, a man and a woman, stood on both sides of the Reikage AI. The one who was talking was the girl. She was not pretty, but she also had some feelings in her heart. Yo-yo, are you sure it's in the sky? Bikayalu, Kumiyalu. Although Kirabi, who was sitting next to him, looked a little serious, he still did not forget his weird rap. Yo-yo, big brother, there are only a few people who can fly in the ninja world at present, and there is only one person who can fly with a sword. There is trouble, Bikayalu, Kumiyalu. Yeah, how Kirabi made a hip hop gesture after speaking. Idiot. Boom, I really couldn't stand Kirabi anymore. Cursed, and punched Kirabi away, and a human-shaped hole appeared on the wall. The wind from outside came in, and the person who was blown felt a little panic. Although Kirabe's rap was weird, he had already made the point clear. Who else in the ninja world dares to come to the cloud village alone and uses a sword and can fly, except Bai Yu? AI naturally thought of this and saw that AI, who was originally angry, also exuded a hidden solemnity in his eyes. I don't know if I can compete with him now, AI said to himself. Prepare for a fight. This time, the wooden man may need to help. Deru, you go and notify him, AI said in a deep voice. Yes, it's really troublesome, Deru said lazily, and he really felt that it was very troublesome, but he still went to execute the order of the fourth Raikage AI. Z. Notify them and prepare to meet the enemy, AI said to Z, and then walked to the side. Boom, a human-shaped wall hole appeared, but this time, it was created by the fourth Raikage AI himself. Mabuai looked at the two human-shaped wall holes on the left and right, and covered his forehead helplessly. It seemed that it was another extra expense. Little did he know that the Raikage building would be gone in a while. Mabuai shook his head and wanted to jump out through the human-shaped hole in the wall, but he turned back and walked through the door. Forget it, let's give it a name. It's too vulgar if we don't give it a name. Let's call it Skylifting Sword. Well, you are indeed a genius who has never been before and will never be surpassed. The name you gave is so artistic and domineering. Haha. Bai Yu narcissistically muttered to himself, then gently raised his hand and let it fall. The giant sword, more than 10 feet long, slowly fell down, but the speed was getting faster and faster. Boom. With Bai Yu's sword, the Raikage building turned into dust, which was even worse than when he was in the rock village. At least Bai Yu kept an Oka's office chair. The Cloud Ninja building was directly reduced to nothing. The huge changes in the Raikage building shocked the Cloud Ninja and civilians for a long time. The fourth Raikage was so angry that his blood was flowing backwards and his face flushed. He clenched his fists and looked at the sky as if he wanted to tear Bai Yu apart. Bai Yu. The fourth Raikage AI, seeing Bai Yu landing, shouted angrily with his teeth bared. Hey, little AI, what's wrong? You're calling me so affectionately, Bai Yu said with a bohemian smile. Cloud Ninjas, come on. Kill him. The fourth Raikage AI waved his hand and shouted at the Cloud Ninjas who had gathered. Kill. The roar of killing suddenly sounded. Oh, look at this Cloud Ninja village, it's different. The welcome is so warm. Bai Yu waved his hand, and the dragon sword seemed to have eyes, beheading several Cloud Ninjas who were very fast and anxious to reincarnate. Bai Yu said with a smile. Several ninjas lost their lives while talking and laughing. Damn it. Bai Yu, what on earth do you want to do? The fourth Raikage AI was so angry that he almost had a brain congestion. Pointing at Bai Yu and shouting. What do I want to do? This should be a question to you. Why do you want to use dirty tricks against Konoha? Bai Yu took away several Cloud Ninjas again with his backhand, dodged several large-scale ninjutsu and the overwhelming hidden weapons, and said coldly, this is a normal method between villages. Why do you come to slaughter my Cloud Ninja village ninjas? The fourth generation Raikage AI scolded. Oh, I also use normal methods. I don't like you. What do you think? You use dirty tricks, and I, Bai Yu, disdain it. I will use open tactics. Why don't you accept it? Come and fight me, Bai Yu said arrogantly. Hearing this, the fourth generation Raikage AI closed his eyes and then slowly opened them. Although he was famous for his bad temper, it did not mean that he was a reckless person who only knew martial arts. After thinking for a while, the fourth generation Raikage AI decided that he must compete with Bai Yu. Lightning escape armor. In an instant, the fourth generation Raikage AI's body was full of thunder attribute chakra and his hair stood up. Yo. Big brother has activated the full state. Bai Yu is dead, crying Yalu, Bakayalu. Killer Bee on the side, danced excitedly and said, all ninjas below the level of Jonin retreat. Jonin ninjas raid the formation. Killer Bee and Yumu Ren are here, act accordingly. Swoosh. The fourth Raikage AI quickly issued an order, and the whole person seemed to disappear, but in fact it was not the case. The fourth Raikage AI approached Bai Yu at an extremely fast speed. Bai Yu narrowed his eyes. This speed is probably stronger than all the previous Raikages. However, this speed is still slightly inferior to Minato. Bai Yu said to himself. In my eyes, Bai Yu, you are slow motion. Since you want to play, I will play with you. Let you feel the full strength of me, Bai Yu. The fighting spirit in Bai Yu's bones was ignited, and with a wave of his hand, the dragon sword flew back to his hand. Purple and gold magic power entangled his body. AI. Today I will let you see what real speed is. I hope you can improve your strength, otherwise it will be boring for me, Bai Yu, to be the only one in the ninja world. After Bai Yu said this quickly, he disappeared. He did not disappear instantly, but because his body was too fast, it left an afterimage, which faded a little bit until it disappeared. The ninjas of the Cloud Ninja were stunned. Only Killer Bee could see clearly the afterimages and pauses when the two fought. In this space, dense collision sounds rang out. Every punch hit the flesh. Shocking. Chapter 317. Chaos in the Cloud Village Part 2. The fourth Reikage and Bai Yu fought fiercely for dozens of rounds. Taking advantage of the impact of the battle, he pulled a distance and condensed the lightning attribute chakra in his elbow. Heavy flow, the fourth Reikage shouted. He elbowed Bai Yu. Bai Yu also injected mana into the dragon sword, blocked the sword with his left elbow, and pointed the sword at the elbow of the fourth Reikage. There was a loud noise when they collided. Yi Lei Shen Nu Lei Fu. The fourth Reikage took advantage of the situation and stepped down in the air, and the whole person chopped towards Bai Yu like a battle axe. I really give you face. Bai Yu cursed angrily at first, and then a sinister smile appeared on his face. The purple gold light of the dragon sword in his hand was bright, and a sharp breath burst out from the sword. Bai Yu turned the sword and aimed the blade at the thigh of the fourth Reikage. Let's see what you can do. If you are unlucky, your leg will be cut off directly. Bai Yu thought to himself. The fourth Reikage is not a paid Reikage. He also has real skills. The pupils of the fourth Reikage shrank, and all the lightning chakra in his body condensed on his legs. Another loud sound. But this surprised Bai Yu a little. He thought his legs would be cut off, but they didn't. Could it be that the dragon sword was blunt? Impossible. How could the spirit sword and sword energy be blunt? But Bai Yu soon saw a blood mark at the root of the fourth Reikage's thigh, but it disappeared quickly. It looks like it should be healed. Bai Yu then remembered that the fourth Reikage's lightning escape armor has the ability to stimulate cell activity. This kid is really strong. Bai Yu couldn't help but become more serious. The sword control technique must not work. With this kid's speed, Kenshin can easily dodge it. Bai's Dugun 9 swords. This is the Dugun 9 swords that Bai Yu recreated after mastering all the sword techniques. It's still the original 9 swords, but these 9 swords can be said to be the best of all schools. The world's martial arts can only be broken by speed, and no moves are better than moves. It's true, but it's extremely difficult to comprehend. Even the Dugun 9 swords had moves at the beginning. It is said that the meaning is more important than the form. Only after the form is formed can the form be seen through. It is said that a person who knows nothing can comprehend the world's #1 swordsmanship. What a joke. How can you comprehend it if you don't even know the basic knowledge? Only when you comprehend all the swordsmanship and see through it can you really use all the swordsmanship to the fullest, and every move and every style is natural. The fighting spirit in Bai Yu's eyes became more and more intense. The dragon sword in his hand was used like a dragon and a tiger, and then it weakened the spirit snake, and then it was opened and closed, and then it was fierce and cunning. Thunder abuse level. Seeing Bai Yu's swordsmanship, the 4th generation Reikage also frowned, maintained his thunder attribute hand knife, and fought with Bai Yu with his instant body technique. However, the Bai family Dugun 9 swords created by Bai Yu has a property of being stronger when facing a strong opponent. No matter what means you use, Bai Yu can always come up with a swordsmanship to deal with it in his mind, and the power is also rising with the output of mana. The thunder is as powerful as Chiome. The 4th Reikage also got angry. He used his strongest physical skills. The situation immediately reached a balance again, and he fought against Bai Yu, but gradually, the scales of victory tilted towards Bai Yu again. No, if this continues, Reikage-sama will lose. Yukito watched the battle for a long time, and when he saw this situation, he couldn't help but frown and thought to himself. "Kirabi, let's go," the two Yukato said to Kirabi seriously. "Yo, let me." Before Kirabi finished his weird rap, he was interrupted by the two Yukato. "Shut up, hurry up," the two Yukato said unhappily, and the tail of the tailed beast appeared behind him and rushed up. "This woman, she really doesn't understand art at all." Crying Yalu, Bikayalu. Kirabi improvised a piece on her own. "Zio Bay." HMM as Kirabi shouted in his heart, a voice in his mind responded to Kirabi. Kirabi drew out his ninja sword and rushed towards Bai Yu. Bai Yu naturally noticed the changes behind the fourth Reikage. Bai Yu licked his lips. 2 power banks? It's so comfortable. The enthusiasm of the Cloud Ninja Village for me is really too sincere, Bai Yu said in his heart. After saying this in his heart, the Teikai ring appeared behind Bai Yu's head. 2 visible yin and yang forces, 1 black and 1 white, rushed towards the two Yubakure and Kirabi at a rapid speed. The yin and yang forces were like the Hunshineling, tightly wrapping the two people. A suction force made the two Yubakure and Kirabi feel weak. They couldn't move at all. I remember that there is a way for us to connect with each other. I heard the Nine-Tails say that it was free, but it was restrained by a guy who loved to absorb the chakra of the tailed beasts. It should be this guy. The Eight-Tails said to Killer B. "You bastard. Why didn't you say it earlier?" The voice of the Two Tails appeared in Killer B's mind. The Two Tails was very upset at this time and shouted angrily, "Damn it. I can't move. What should I do?" The voices of the two Yukitas also appeared. But the two Yukitas were calmer. "I don't know, Kumiero, Bakayero," Killer B said very straightforwardly. Everyone was speechless. Even the Nine-Tails was subdued by Bai Yu, and they really couldn't think of any way to deal with Bai Yu. "Asshole. Bai Yu. What did you do to them?" Using the impact of the collision, the fourth Reikage and Bai Yu pulled away. The fourth Reikage shouted angrily at Bai Yu. "What did I do? Haha. You will know later," Bai Yu said with a laugh. He was having a great time at this time. What a fresh electricity. He had to absorb it for a while, especially 2 of them. The amount was large. "Asshole, let them go. Otherwise, my Cloud Ninja Village will fight you to the end with the strength of the entire village," the fourth Reikage said fiercely. Bai Yu looked at the 4th generation Reikage and had to say that this guy was quite strong. After such a long battle, he still didn't blush, his heart didn't beat, and he didn't breathe. Sure enough, it's true that the Cloud Village is known for its strongest strength. Bai Yu didn't want to hurt Cheyenne and carry out a massacre of the village. 5 minutes, I'll leave in 5 minutes. Today I came to your Cloud Village to cause damage. This is your punishment for messing with my Konoha. I'll punish your Jinkriki as interest, Bai Yu said in a deep voice, and then stopped talking. Suddenly, Bai Yu remembered that he hadn't seen the Jinkriki of the Rock Village. This Inoki was really an old fox. Even in this situation, he didn't let the Jinkriki take action. This is also a disguised way of preserving strength. But Bai Yu doesn't care. It's nothing. Although the 4th generation Reikage can still fight again, he knows that it is not easy to entangle with Bai Yu in the current situation. 5 minutes later, Bai Yu left as promised. The 4th Reikage watched Bai Yu leave, holding back his anger, and calmly issued an order to prevent the Cloud Village from causing unrest. And Bai Yu's next stop is the Sand Village in the Wind Country! Exclamation mark. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318, Eluosha, the Sensible One. Approaching the Sand Village, Bai Yu did not rush to attack, but walked around the Sand Village. After walking around, Bai Yu smacked his lips and said to himself, the environment of this Sand Village is really bad. Green plants are rare. No wonder the demand for food is so high. The natives living here, why don't they raise camels? Bai Yu smiled after saying this. He really couldn't bring himself to attack the Sand Village. However, Bai Yu still slashed at the Wind Shadow building with a sword. But to Bai Yu's surprise, his attack was blocked. A person floated in the air and hid himself with sand. Hey, Eluosha. Isn't this an old acquaintance? How can you hide yourself? By making a pile of broken sand. Bai Yu recalled the dragon sword and laughed loudly. Bai Yu, I wonder what conditions can make you stop. Alyosha appeared from the sand with an expressionless face and then asked in a cold voice. Bai Yu was stunned when he heard Alyosha's words and then laughed. I was saying that your ability to become the Kazakid seems to have a lot to do with your brain. You can see it clearly. Bai Yu said with a smile. You are only one person, but you are very strong. The whole village should be able to kill you, but after killing you, we must also consider the remaining strength of the village. So, tell me a condition. Alyosha said coldly. If this Alyosha doesn't die, he should be regarded as the most wise Kazakid in the history of Kazakij. Moreover, Bai Yu recalled the scroll. The sand village seemed to have a drastic impact on Konoha, but several ninjas were still sacrificed. Bai Yu thought for a long time and said, 3 moves. You protect the village, and I will attack 3 times. I will leave after 3 times. Okay. Come on. Alyosha still said expressionlessly. Is this the person? In the village, a little boy with a gourd on his back looked up at Alyosha and Bai Yu in the sky, his eyes focused on Bai Yu. This little boy is the Jinkriki of the sand village. When Bai Yu approached the sand village, the little boy almost ran away. He yelled madly, Bai Yu, I'm going to kill you. Otherwise, Alyosha couldn't take defensive measures in advance. Shukaku told the little boy about his grudge with Bai Yu. There was a word love on the boy's forehead. After Alyosha finished speaking, he began to mobilize the chakra in his body and use the unique magnetic escape technique to control the sand within dozens of miles around. There was a layer of metallic texture on the sand. The golden sand was like a soldier. Alyosha was their leader. Sword control technique. Sword rain. The same trick, the same effect, but this time, Bai Yu hit with all his strength. The sky was instantly filled with dense sword shadows, like purple gold clouds, shining with light. Bai Yu frowned and waved his hand. The sword rain covering dozens of miles, like a storm, made a thunderous sound. Begin to invade the sand village. Starting from the sky, the raging breath made the ninjas and civilians in the village tremble. But Alyosha, as the wind shadow, is not just for free. The golden sand enveloped the sand village, strengthening the thickness of the defense layer by layer. In a blink of an eye, more than 10 layers of defense had been covered. Bai Yu curled his lips. This was the bad thing about large-scale attacks. There were too many foreplays, which made people prepared. Unless you were very strong, how could you kill others? Fortunately, with the sword drain move, each sword shadow was covered with a layer of sharp sword energy, and the attack time was very long. The people in the sand village only felt that the golden sand on their heads began to fall continuously. Others were raining, but the sand village was fine. It was raining sand. It was golden. However, Alyosha also blocked Bai Yu's sword control technique, so don't worry about what others rained. Very good. Spirit sword. The true body of the sword spirit. Bai Yu smiled at first, and then the smile gradually cooled. Bai Yu agreed to 3 moves, but he didn't say that he would let it go for 3 moves. Bai Yu led the dragon sword into the air, shouted, roar. The dragon sword burst into a ball of purple gold light, and then there was a beast roar. Yamato no Orochi, who had been calm for a long time, finally had a chance to fight. Roar, roar. After Yamato no Orochi turned into a dragon, he looked at Alyosha with a pair of scholar eyes, and his eyes were full of excitement. Fight! Exclamation mark. He can finally laugh at the world again. Big Snake. 1 move. Use the strongest move. Don't make a move after 1 move. Bai Yu shouted. Got it. Yamato no Orochi said in a deep voice. I felt a little unhappy. I finally got out once, but I couldn't fight comfortably. But Yamato no Orochi didn't say anything. Since he stepped onto this pirate ship, Yamato no Orochi has already changed his mentality and ideas. Yamato no Orochi opened his bloody mouth. The 7 attributes of wind, fire, thunder, water, earth, yin, and yang poured out of his mouth, converge, and finally turn into the purest light. This light is very soft, and slowly gathers into the shape of a dragon sword. It is an enlarged version of the dragon sword. Don't ignore the power of the sword spirit attack, because the light is very soft. If Bai Yu used 10% of his strength, only half of the mana, that could be transformed into sword energy. But the sword spirit was different, 10% of his strength, 100% of his sword energy. Alyosha was not the kind of person who could turn sand into sand sculptures. Naturally, he knew that Bai Yu's move was not simple. However, when he saw the Yamato no Orochi, his pupils still shrank unconsciously. Then he very cleverly condensed more golden sand again. Roar. The Yamato no Orochi opened its bloody mouth for a long time and suddenly spit it out. The huge dragon sword, emitting a soft light, with a thunderous and clanging momentum, attacked the golden sand defense shield created by Alyosha. Seeing this, Bai Yu couldn't help but curse in his heart. This is unfair. Why can the sword spirit have 10 times the sword energy bonus, but I don't have it? Bai Yu kept muttering in his heart. This is the benefit of the sword energy bonus. The sword energy cuts the resistance in half, passes through from both sides, greatly speeds up the speed, and the sharp sword energy itself has greatly reduced the resistance. The huge dragon sword cuts the defense shield like cutting tofu. Bai Yu's eyes lit up when he saw this, because it was through this crack that Bai Yu saw the Fengying building. Well done. Bai Yu couldn't help but shout. Not good. Alyosha's heart sank. But at this time, he was gathering sand with all his strength to resist the sword energy released by the Yamato no Orochi. The sharp piercing feeling made Alyosha's defense work not only laborious but also stressful. Bai Yu raised a sinister smile at the corner of his mouth. Bai's secret technique. 10,000 thunder flames. This is the attack method that Bai Yu comprehended after condensing his dragon body, and the chakra and natural energy in his body were replaced by mana. It is a spell attack. It combines the previous 10,000 thunders, thunderfall, and fire flames. It created a spell that surpasses ordinary immortal arts. 10,000 thunder flames. Bai Yu raised a rich purple gold mana in his hand, and tears and rain suddenly fell in the sky. The original dark cloud suddenly turned into purple gold, but the light was a little dim. However, the purple gold color was still vaguely visible. Chapter 319. Bai Yu returns to the village. Full. A purple gold light flashed in Bai Yu's eyes, and he shouted loudly. Boom. Crack, a thunderclap. This Tangshan cultivation. Ahem. Purple gold lightning suddenly appeared. There were only 2 loud noises. The entire sand village was shrouded in thunder. After the purple gold lightning dissipated, Bai Yu stared for a while, then nodded with satisfaction, retracted the dragon sword, and flew away. Alyosha's hair was a little burnt, but his body was still relatively flat, not too embarrassed. However, when Alyosha saw Bai Yu's leaving figure, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood puff. This was a mouthful of blood that Alyosha had to hold back. Bai Yu's thunder was powerful, and Alyosha also used the principle of metal conductivity to be able to withstand this thunderclap attack, but the fire and wind attribute attacks contained in it could not be avoided and needed to be resisted. When Alyosha looked back at the sand village he was protecting, his face suddenly turned pale. Puff. He spat out blood again and then fainted. The sand lost control and was blown away by the wind and fell to the ground, and Alyosha also fell from the air to the ground. Lord Kazakage. Seeing this situation, several sharp-eyed ninjas quickly caught Alyosha. Pass my order. Hurry up to rebuild the sand village and register the losses. After Alyosha finished speaking, he fainted completely. Quick, send Lord Kazakage to the temporary medical unit. At this time, the sand village, strictly speaking, did not suffer much damage. The village was intact, but some wooden buildings were burned down. Fortunately, most of the sand village were not wooden buildings. The Kazakage building completely disappeared, leaving only 2 big words on the ground. Exclamation mark. Jinglao. The others were all burned. I don't understand the language of Naruto, so I can only use the top language. But this is good. After completing the task, Bai Yu rushed towards Konoha. Exclamation mark. Because the matter of Baiing and Baiheyo has been delayed for several days. Auntie, mother, third mother, when do you think dad will come back? Beiki and Baiheyo stood in the ward of Baiing and Baiheyo. Although they knew that Bai Yu replied that there was nothing wrong, Baiing and Baiheyo had been lying for several days and still hadn't woken up, so they couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Beiki looked at Tsunade, Terumi Medi and Uchiha Makoto and asked softly. As for the title of auntie, second mother and third mother, it was changed temporarily by the author for convenience. Haha. Exclamation mark. Tsunade is the eldest, Uchiha Makoto is second, and Terumi Medi is third. No matter what order is followed, it is in this order. Yu's mission level is relatively high, and it takes a long time. After all, it is more difficult to cause damage to the 3 villages. But it should be soon. Terumi Medi and Tsunade are both strong women, but the difference is that Terumi Medi is more gentle and Tsunade is more fiery. Uchiha Makoto is the kind of good woman who lives a stable life and is virtuous. Yeah. Kia, didn't your father say that it's okay? It's just that the consumption is quite large. After all, the 2 of them have just awakened that ability. Uchiha Makoto touched Beiki's head with a loving face. Looking at Beiki, who is a little taller than herself, Uchiha Makoto is a little emotional. Beiki felt a little embarrassed when Uchiha Makoto touched him like this. But Beiki didn't say anything. What can his mother do when she touches his head? No, we can't just let it go. I'm going to find that kid Minato. Tsunade has been gloomy. Seeing Bai and Bai lying on the hospital bed, the anger in her heart can't be suppressed. Bang. Tsunade angrily hit the wall lightly. Several cracks suddenly appeared on the wall shyly. Tsunade didn't care about these and turned around to walk out of the ward. Uchiha Makoto and Terumi Medi naturally knew what was going on. Even Beiki and Bai knew Tsunade's intention. It's nothing more than saying hello to Namikaze Minato and then going to the rock village to cause trouble. Big sister, wait for us, we'll go with you. Uchiha Makoto and Terumi Medi looked at each other, raised their voices, and quickly followed Tsunade. Tsunade glanced at the 2 women, smiled, nodded, and then her face darkened. We'll go too. Beiki and Bai looked at each other and said angrily. You stay here to guard Bai and Bai. The 3 of us can go. Tsunade turned around and said without question. At this moment, it was as if the female tyrant of the year was reborn. Beiki and Bai looked at each other helplessly and had to sit by the bed of Bai and Bai to guard. The reason why Tsunade didn't let them go was because their strength was not enough. Although the 3 of them were not as strong as Bai Yu, even if they were defeated, they could easily retreat. If Beiki and Bai went, the situation might be different. The 3 women came back after executing Narashikaku's plan 2 days ago. They thought they knew about Bai and Bai, so they didn't change their clothes and came to Konoha Hospital directly in their combat light armor. At this time, the 3 women walked out again with high spirits. But when they pushed open the door, the 3 women were stunned because they saw the person they wanted to see the most. The 3 women first saved that person because they were worried about Bai and Bai. They couldn't stop their anxiety and pain for so many days. After crying for a while, they vented their feelings. Then they began to question this person. Why did he come back so late? And then they challenged this person. This person was Bai Yu. Bai Yu was very helpless when he saw this. Tsunade punched him in the face, and Uchiha Makoto and Terumi Medi were left and right, 2 whip kicks, whipping his waist. Because they were in the hospital, Bai Yu was afraid that he would destroy public property because of his dodge and glanced at Beiki and Bai who were laughing in the ward. Bai Yu looked at the ceiling helplessly, then hugged the 3 women roughly and flew to an open space along the window behind him. Then wait for the 3 women to vent their negative emotions in their hearts. After venting, the 3 girls went home to change clothes because after so many days, even if they were fragrant, they had some smell. Women are like this. No matter how strong their abilities and strong their personalities are, there will always be times when they need to vent. Bai Yu understood very well, so he didn't say anything. Seeing the 3 girls leaving happily, Bai Yu smiled, silently treated his swollen face, and then used some tricks to clean up the dense footprints on his clothes. Refreshed and returned to the Konoha hospital. Seeing Bai Yu coming back, Beiki and Bai hurriedly pulled Bai Yu's arms on the left and right. Dad, please check on Jinga and Haoa. They haven't woken up for so many days. Bai said anxiously. Yes, Dad. When Joa and I awakened, we also overdrawn, but it wasn't like this time. We didn't wake up for several days. Beiki also said anxiously. Bai Yu smiled. comforted Beiki and Baiyao, then walked to the bedside of Baiyang and Baihao, and began to check them. Chapter 320 The Four Hokage Guards. Bai Yu examined for a long time and sighed helplessly. Dat. Beiki and Baiyao saw Bai Yu finished the examination and hurriedly called Bai Yu. Bai Yu waved his hand and said to Beiki and Baiyao, "These two children have overdrawn so much just after awakening. It is rare that they did not die. Now they are recovering well. It is estimated that they will wake up in a few days. At this time, we can only rely on their own recovery speed, and I can't do anything. That can't be done. Dad, my yin and yang power is overdrawn. Yao will heal me," Beiki said anxiously. "Yes, Dad. Think of a way," Baiyao said, holding Bai Yu's arm. Bai Yu smiled bitterly. "You think I'm incurable? Not only you two, they are also my children. Their situation is different from yours. You two are at most exhausted. But they are different. They are overdrawn too seriously. If they hadn't insisted on practicing base Daffa, they would probably have to lie in bed for half a year. This is the difference between conscious recovery and unconscious recovery. Conscious recovery is very fast, but unconscious recovery like this depends on talent and physical fitness. Fortunately, they are not bad," Bai Yu explained. Beiki and Baiyao understood and nodded after hearing it. "You two stay here for a few more days. I'll go report the mission briefing." Bai Yu poked Beiki's forehead, then touched Baiyao's head and said with a smile, "Lord Bai Yu." A ninja walked in. Bai Yu recognized this ninja. This ninja was called Shirana Genma and was one of Minato Namikaze's guards. "Oh, it's you. Minato wants to see me for something," Bai Yu said with a smile. "Yes, Lord Bai Yu. Lord Hokage knows you are back and has called a meeting. The three ladies have already rushed to the Hokage's office." When Shiranazuanjian mentioned the three ladies, he touched his nose in obvious embarrassment. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" Bai Yu asked with keen awareness. It's like this. When Bing Zulitong, Yamashiro Aoba and Gekko Heiate went to your house, the three ladies were taking a bath. We were outside the yard and didn't rush in. However, due to the urgency of the matter, we had to go in and report. As soon as the door opened, before we could speak, the three ladies beat us up. If it weren't for Gekko Heiate reporting the situation to the three ladies in time, I guess I would have been lying down, Shiranazuanjian said awkwardly. Bai Yu closed his eyes helplessly when he heard this. He naturally knew how cruel Tsunade, Uchiha Mikoto and Terumi Mei would be in this situation. After all, if they were mistaken for perverts, no one would not beat them up. At this time, "Doctor! Doctor!" Shouts were loud and full of energy. This shout was more familiar, especially Shiranagenjian, who touched his nose awkwardly when he heard the shout. Bai Yu also figured it out at this time. It was Moonlight Gale who called people. "Well, let's go. It's just right to treat those two guys." Bai Yu patted Shiranagenjian's shoulder and touched his nose and said, "Thank you, sir." Shiranagenjian hurriedly thanked him. "It's okay. Anyway, it was my wife who beat me. I hope you don't blame me," Bai Yu said awkwardly. Bai Yu followed Shiranagenjian out of the ward and then walked downstairs, just in time to meet two speeding beds to be sent to the emergency room. Bai Yu stretched out his hand to stop. The medical staff was about to curse angrily, but when they saw Bai Yu, they immediately dispelled their anger and then looked at Bai Yu with admiration. "Well, thank you all for your hard work. Let me treat them." "Wait a minute. Please push the bed away," Bai Yu said with a smile. No trouble, Sir Bai Yu. We will come back later," a medical ninja said politely. "No, just wait here. It will be quick," Bai Yu said, and the rich green light ball on his hand suddenly condensed. Seeing this, the surrounding medical ninjas were all moved. What a pure yang attribute chakra. And the amount is so huge, so condensed. Lord Bai Yu is really worthy of his reputation. The medical ninjas were amazed. But they didn't know that Bai Yu was using all his mana now, not chakra anymore. Bai Yu pressed his hand on the bodies of Shanshin Kingai, who was standing with his feet together, and the rich green light ball enveloped the two of them. Bai Yu also took the opportunity to check it out. Wow. After Bai Yu understood the situation, not only did a burst of sweat appear on his forehead, 6 ribs were broken, the lungs were bleeding, the cheekbones were cracked, and the leg bones were also broken into 3 pieces. Although it looked very embarrassed, with the current strength of Konoha Hospital, such injuries would only require staying in the hospital for 2 more months. Bai Yu felt embarrassed, but with the richness of yang power, he quickly healed the injuries of the 2 people. However, the injuries on the body are a small matter, but the injuries on the mind are not a small matter. It is estimated that these 2 guys will have to think about life in the hospital bed for 3 days. Well, the injuries have been healed, but the spirit still needs to be recuperated for a few days. It's not a big problem. After a long time, Bai Yu retracted his magic power and said with a smile, "The medical ninjas were very responsible in sending Bingzuli Tang and Yamashiro Aoba to the ward. Now only Shirana Genjin and Gekko Height were left. Just now, because Bai Yu had to treat Bingzuli Tang and Yamashiro Aoba, Gekko Height did not speak. At this time, Gekko Height bowed to Bai Yu and said respectfully, "Teacher." "Well, Height, is your relationship with Ziyan okay?" Bai Yu touched Gekko Height's head and said, "Very good, teacher." Gekko Height's face is no longer the sickly pale before, but a healthy white and rosy complexion. Hearing Bai Yu's words, it suddenly became redder. Master Bai Yu, I'll take my leave first. I'll go check on Bingzuli Tang and Yamashiro Aoba first. I'll let Gekko Height go with you later." Shirana Genma was very sensible. He knew that the master and apprentice had something to say, so he found a reason to leave. Bai Yu nodded and smiled, and Shirana Genma took his leave. "That's fine," Bai Yu said with a smile. Teacher, I'm going to be the bodyguard of Hokage." Originally, Gekko Height was in the selection training of the dragon team, but Namikaze Minato took a fancy to Gekko Height's ability of transparent escape, and had already told Bai Yu about it. Bai Yu naturally didn't care. It didn't matter where his apprentice went. He didn't have to be in the dragon team, and he could be with him for the rest of his life. How is that possible? However, Gekko Gale didn't think so. He was actually very resistant to becoming the Hokage's bodyguard. However, Gekko Gale could not resist Namikaze Minato's sunny smile and the will of fire that was deeply rooted in people's hearts, so he had to agree in the end. Seeing Bai Yu, Gekko Gale felt a little embarrassed. Chapter 321, Calm. "Okay, Jifeng, you can go anywhere, as long as you are still my disciple. That's enough. It's your freedom to go wherever you want. You don't have to be in the dragon group. You don't have to have such a big psychological burden. No matter where you are, you must be outstanding and be the best. This is to give me Bai Yu face." Bai Yu touched Yu Guangjifeng's head, then poked his forehead, and said with a smile, "Teacher, Yu Guangjifeng felt even more uncomfortable when he heard Bai Yu say this. "Let's go, let's talk while walking." Bai Yu smiled, and patted Yu Guangjifeng's shoulder, and said with a smile, "Okay, teacher." Yu Guangjifeng naturally knew that Bai Yu was going to the Hokage office building. He didn't refuse. While walking with Bai Yu, he talked about his thoughts, his apologies for not helping the teacher, and some of his own things. Bai Yu naturally played the role of a good teacher, comforting Yu Guangjifeng, helping Yu Guangjifeng solve life problems, and explaining to Yu Guangjifeng some cultivation problems. When they arrived at the Hokage's office building, Moonlight Height knew that Bai Yu was going to a meeting, so he did not stop him. He bowed to Bai Yu, and Bai Yu smiled and said, "When you have time, bring Yuzuki Yugeo to my house for dinner. I'm leaving first." After that, Bai Yu waved his hand. Moonlight Height's dead fish eyes showed a grateful smile, and then his figure gradually disappeared. Bai Yu tidied his clothes, then pushed open the door of the conference room and walked in. At this time, everyone had been here for a long time, just waiting for Bai Yu. But after hearing some information from the outside, what's the harm in waiting a while? With such a record, who can achieve this level in the current ninja world? But people should be humble, and Bai Yu still sincerely expressed his apology for being late. Namikaze Minato smiled and nodded. Bai Yu sat in his seat, waiting for Namikaze Minato to speak. "Everyone, this mission has been successfully completed. The only flaw is that the Iwagakure infiltrated the village, so close to Konoha village without any notice. If it weren't for the outstanding rising stars of Konoha, the village would have suffered some losses. Elder Bai Yu has just returned due to the heavy task and some other factors. I will formally do a post-war review and summary. Then, we will hold a simple meeting for the future development of Konoha. Namikaze Minato said with a slightly serious face. Then, the ninjas who participated in Narashikaku's plan began to tell their mission briefs one by one. They were very concise, what the mission was, how to execute the mission, what the result was, whether there were any unexpected things, etc. Including Bai Yu's 3 wives, Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Terumi. After they finished speaking, everyone looked at Bai Yu at the same time. Bai Yu saw that it was his turn, so he cleared his throat and said concisely, 3 villages, the office building of the 3 cages disappeared, and several ninjas were killed. I gave that old man Inoki a private lesson. I estimate that he will have to work in the hospital for 3 months. In short, for at least 5 years, or even longer, the 3 villages do not have the strength to go against Konoha. There may be some actions in secret, but it is estimated that there will be no large-scale joint actions of the 3 villages like this time, and it should be said that they dare not have any. Although Bai Yu said it concisely, everyone knew that the real thing must be more than that. Everyone looked at Bai Yu with deep awe. This was awe for the strong, and also a relief that Bai Yu was in their camp. Bai Yu alone could turn the 3 major ninja villages upside down. Looking at the history of the ninja world, only the man called the God of Killing could be comparable, but Bai Yu was still very young at this time, and it was estimated that his future achievements would definitely surpass Orochimaru. Even Terumi couldn't help but feel lucky. Fortunately, her previous choice was wise. Otherwise, maybe this time, even the Mist Village might be killed by Bai Yu. This doesn't mean that Terumi married Bai Yu because she got Bai Yu's protection. She just felt Bai Yu's strength, that's all. With Bai Yu's guarantee, the next meeting ended happily. Without obstacles, Konoha's development will soar. If you think about it carefully, because of Bai Yu's existence, Konoha seems to have become the largest village in the ninja world without knowing it, and it also has the strength to become a country on its own. However, it is impossible to become a country on its own. The daimyo of the 5 major countries all have unknown power, but it will cost an extremely huge price to use it. If it is not a major accident of life and death, the daimyo will not use this power. Otherwise, can each village be restricted by financial resources alone? Exclamation mark. However, it is unexpected that Konoha has Bai Yu, who is like a cheat. Sometimes, financial resources can really play a huge role. After the meeting, Konoha entered a slow development phase again, and Konoha will put part of its energy into the construction of the Mist Village in the next 5 years. After all, the Mist Village is not an outsider now. Besides, the Mizukage has been taken over by Bai Yu, and he has also helped Konoha. It can't be done in vain. Even if Terumi doesn't say anything, will Namikaze Minato feel embarrassed? If it's Sarutobi Hiruzen, he might feel embarrassed. Bai Yu returned home surrounded by the 3 women. Tsunade couldn't wait to start asking about Bai Ying and Bai Heio's condition. Thinking wrongly, face the wall. Jinga and Heio, it should take a few days for them to wake up. Bai Yu sat on the sofa and stretched his waist and said, is there no way to make them wake up quickly? Terumi asked immediately. No. The situation is different this time. They can only rely on themselves. However, these 2 children can be regarded as a blessing in disguise. Bai Yu said with a smile. What blessing in disguise? Orochimaru asked. First, the 2 children opened their eyes under the stimulation. Second, although it looks miserable to overdraw beyond the level this time, as long as they persist in practicing the Bai family's Dafa, it is estimated that the speed of improvement in the future will be greatly improved. Third, Heio's understanding of the power of yin and yang will also undergo a qualitative change because of this performance. Jaoa is also at this stage now, and Heioa is 1 step ahead of this stage. Jinga's control over chakra has also improved a lot. Bai Yu said proudly. Then I'm relieved, but there is one thing that needs attention. Tsunade said with a sigh of relief, but when she said the latter, a trace of depth flashed in Tsunade's eyes. What's the matter? Bai Yu asked in confusion. An organization called Akatsuki appeared in the black market with a black-red cloud cloak, very mysterious, and should have appeared a long time ago, but recently there has been a big move. Crazy execution of tasks, crazy money, but the success rate of the task is very high. No matter what the task is, it will be accepted, and the means are also very cruel. Tsunade frowned and said, "Well, actually my methods are also very cruel," Bai Yu said with a sly smile. As Bai Yu showed his power, the 3 girls had no resistance and allowed Bai Yu to carry them back to the room. Baking Cheng was not there, probably because she went to get the whip, and the 4 children were not there either. An unscrupulous and indescribable game began. Chapter 322. Half a year later. Bai Yu, Tsunade, Uchiha Mikoto, and Terumi Mei lived day and night, very happy, but happy days always come to an end. Bai Ying and Bai Heo woke up. Although they are still a little weak, they will be fine, as long as they recover. So Tsunade, Uchiha Mikoto, and Terumi Mei are busy again every day, in the dragon group during the day, and at home at night. Beiki and Bai Yeo returned to intense training, while Bai Ying and Bai Heo were handed over to Bai Yu's care. Nothing big happened in Konoha now, and Bai Yu is still very free. But recently, Yu Guangjifeng has come more frequently with Mao Yu Ziyan, and they come every few days. Yu Guangjifeng is also quite motivated. Every time he comes, he asks about cultivation issues, or asks Bai Yu to teach him swordsmanship. After Bai Ying and Bai Heo recovered, Bai Yu also ushered in a busy period. Hearing that the strength of Gekko Height was increasing day by day, Uchiha Shizu, Hatake Kakashi, Uchiha Obito, Might Guy, Tachibana Yukio, Sarutobi Asuma, Nohara and Yuhi Kurenoi could not sit still. If they did not need to train new people, these guys would have wanted to live in Bai Yu's house every day. However, they would also find time to ask Bai Yu about training problems, or if they had some questions that they could not figure out, they would ask Bai Yu. In the later period, Tachibana Yukio also recognized Bai Yu as his teacher. However, unlike Hatake Kakashi and others, they had been learning from Bai Yu since childhood. What surprised Bai Yu was that Hatake Kakashi actually derived the blood limit of Storm Release and mastered Storm Release Chain, Storm Release Storm Blade, Storm Release Heavenly Punishment. However, Hatake Kakashi could not master the ninjutsu of Heavenly Punishment perfectly. Hatake Kakashi asked Bai Yu the most about how to integrate the blood limit of Storm Release into swordsmanship. This kid is really a genius. Of course, Bai Yu did not praise him. Uchiha Shizu asked Bai Yu how to make the instant body technique more amazing. Bai Yu also specially researched a set of instant body techniques suitable for Uchiha Shizu in the past few days. It integrates all of Uchiha Shizu's insights and all of his attributes. This makes Uchiha Shizu very happy. Nohara asked Bai Yu how to master the power of the tailed beasts. After all, the 3-tailed beast has been in her body for a long time, and now she can only borrow some power. Although the power should not be underestimated, Nohara knows that this is not the full power of the 3-tailed beast. Bai Yu solved the problem in just a moment after hearing it. It's very simple. Just beat up that little turtle. Yuhi Kurenoi asked a lot of questions about illusions, and Bai Yu also tried his best to pass on more knowledge to Yuhi Kurenoi. As for Sarutobi Asuma, it's simple. Just like Uchiha Obito, he can play the chakra attribute to the extreme. Tachibana Yukio is more learning swordsmanship from Bai Yu that can perfectly exert the power of blood. Bai Yu also generously taught Tachibana Yukio a few tailor-made sword techniques. This sword technique is different from Bai Yu's previous routine sword technique. It is the kind of sword technique that is the same as ninjutsu, ninja sword technique. Hatake Kakashi also learned this kind of sword technique. As for Might Guy, it is even simpler. For a pure physical ninja like him, you need to observe the battles to understand a lot of things. So, Might Guy would be beaten by Bai Yu's clone from morning to night every day, and then he would come to be beaten again the next day. Might Guy has a lot of time, because there are very few pure physical ninjas like him, and they can only be said to be rare species. It is enough to improve his strength to this level, which is unique in Konoha. Under Bai Yu's teaching, Might Guy is no longer the shy boy with a watermelon head and green tights. Instead, he is a mature, steady, resolute tough guy, but he is still passionate and youthful when he opens his mouth. Bai Yu can't do anything about this. Bai Ying's training is very boring, just shooting arrows every day. Various angles, various situations, various distances. Shooting arrows desperately, can't stop. Even if the arm is sore, can't stop. The bow and arrow used was made by Bai Yu himself. Even fatigue fractures can't stop. With Bai Yu around, fractures can be cured in just a moment. Relatively speaking, Bai Yu is relatively leisurely, and he practices swordsmanship every day. But how could Bai Yu let him be so cool? Bai Yu must master a set of swordsmanship every day. A set of swordsmanship every day is a disaster for Bai Yu. If he can barely perform it, Bai Yu can still achieve it, but Bai Yu's requirement is that he must remember a set of swordsmanship every day, and it must be coherent and smooth. Therefore, Bai Yu is the worst. Sometimes he can't sleep all night, because some swordsmanship has 16 moves, some have 32 moves, and some have 108 moves. During the day, he teaches apprentices and children, and at night, he teaches his wife. In addition, Bai Yu is now physically strong and energetic. He can stay awake for several days and nights without sleeping, so Bai Yu's life is very fulfilling. Such days lasted for half a year. Originally, Bai Ying and Bai Yu asked for a few months of leave, but later Bai Yu simply asked for a half-year leave for them. Fortunately, Bai Ying's archery and Bai Yu's swordsmanship have basically been taught, and the rest is left for them to comprehend. As the saying goes, the master leads the way, but the practice is up to the individual. If you don't understand it yourself, no one can teach you. In half a year, Bai Yu also completely understood the ability of Bai Ying and Bai Yu's Dharma Eye. After that outbreak, Bai Ying's Dharma Eye ability, without treatment, without soul binding, without signing a contract, without any ability, is based on pure yang power, condensed into a bow, yin power condensed arrows, and use the strength of yang power to shoot continuous offensive arrows with corrosive effects. However, Bai Ying's eyesight is comparable to Bai Yu. Moreover, Bai Yu can be sure that when Bai Ying reaches his realm, Bai Ying can lock everything with the eyesight of the Dharma Eye, achieve 100 shots, and shoot the enemy to death with one arrow from 1,000 meters away. This is a new ability that combines mental power and pupil power. After practice, Bai Ying's eyes are not only more moist, but also very deep and sharp. Bai Yu is the same as Bai Yu. The power of yang heals, and the power of yin corrodes, but the difference is that Bai Yu's corrosive power is purer, while Bai Yu has an additional ability of yin power shield. On this day, Bai Ying and Bai Yu set foot on the school day again. However, when the two children arrived at the door, they found out something that made them extremely embarrassed. The school is on winter vacation. When Bai Ying and Bai Yu returned home, Bai Yu knew about this and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Helplessly, Bai Yu had to give the two children some money and let the two children go out to play as a way to relax from the intense practice during this period. Bai Yu immediately shouted that Bai Yu was wise and pulled Bai Ying out happily. Chapter 323, Filmmaker. It's the new year again. Suddenly, it started snowing. Although Bai Yu was wearing thin clothes, it was nothing for Bai Yu, who had long been immune to the cold and heat. Bai Yu looked at the falling snowflakes, his eyes gradually became empty, and he recalled his past in this world. Sister, it's the new year. Meditarumi and Uchiha Makoto sat on the sofa in Tsunade's office, drank a sip of hot tea and said, yes. The amount of tasks has slowly decreased. Tsunade also stretched her waist and said with a smile, how are we going to celebrate this year? Uchiha Makoto lightly held her cheeks and said thoughtfully, how did we celebrate in previous years? This year, we will celebrate the same way. Tsunade also walked to Uchiha Makoto and sat down, poured a cup of hot tea, and said indifferently, it's different. It's rare for the whole family to be reunited together. Of course we have to celebrate a prosperous new year. As a good woman who cares about her family, Uchiha Makoto naturally wants to have a happy new year. Unconsciously, I have been in Konoha for such a long time. Meditarumi sighed as she looked at the falling snow outside. Missing home? Tsunade looked at Meditarumi and asked with a smile. My home is right here. Where else can I miss? It's the Mist Village. You know, I used to be the Mizukage. Although I know what the Mist Village looks like now through intelligence, I have never seen it in person, so I always miss it. Meditarumi smiled at first, then said helplessly. Then let's go back and take a look. It's not too far. My elder sister and I will go back with you to take a look. The three of us sisters will go out for a walk. My elder sister and I have been in the village for many years, so it's good to go out and relax. Uchiha Makoto said with a smile. Well, it's settled. Without Bai Yu, just the three of us will go out. Tsunade said domineeringly. Thank you, big sister, second sister. Although the two women said they were going out to play, Meditarumi knew that the two women wanted to support her face. After all, this was also considered going back to her mother's house. If she went back, she would inevitably be said to have a bad life in Konoha. However, it was different for the two women to go back with her. First, it proved safety. Bai Yu's wife could wander around the ninja world without worrying about danger. Second, it proved that Meditarumi lived very well in Konoha. Every time she went back to her mother's house, she was accompanied by someone, and there were two women who married Bai Yu earlier than herself. If Bai Yu didn't go, naturally no one would say anything. After all, Bai Yu had to stay in Konoha. Third, it proved that Konoha attached great importance to the cooperative relationship with the Mist Village. After all, Mrs. Bai Yu's visit to the Mist Village represented everything. Bai Yu was the top man in the ninja world. Who is the top? Ahem. After the three women made a decision, they hurriedly explained the matters of the dragon group, and then went home to pack up their things. They said something to Bai Yu in a hurry, leaving Bai Yu with a confused face, and the three women went away. With a sigh, Bai Yu went to have a drink with Narashikaku. This is a daily life of married man. Narashikaku chatted with Bai Yu for a while, then asked for leave from his wife, and then went out for a drink with Bai Yu. It was quite a coincidence that Bai Yu went to find Narashikaku. It happened that Narashikaku had nothing to do recently and spent more time at home. The two came to a street pub, ordered a pot of sake and some snacks, and started drinking and chatting. I have to say, you are really capable. Especially setting up an entertainment company. Those serialized TV series and movies on the computer are so good. Narashikamaru is now watching a movie called The Film Director at home, and he is almost obsessed with it. I think he has watched it 7 or 8 times, and I don't know how many times he has watched it. Narashikaku said with a smile, after taking a sip of sake. Entertainment company? Ah, I remember now. Narahirakoa told me about it before. As for the shadow artist, I just made some assumptions based on the shadow secrets of your Nera family. I didn't expect those guys in the production department to actually make a movie. Bai Yu was stunned at first, and then his mind quickly thought about it. Now Bai Yu can be said to be a super hands-off boss. By handing over the power of the Bai group to Narahirakoa, Bai Yu is sitting on the Diote. So you don't know all this? Narashikaku asked puzzledly. How should I know? I handed the company over to Hirakoa to manage a long time ago. Don't say, that boy is really a talent. Bai Yu took a sip of sake and said proudly. TSK. But you know what? Even though you don't know, your ideas are really feasible. I know Shikamaru, like me, is most afraid of trouble. He can watch a movie so many times, there must be something worth learning from it. How about you give Shikamaru a private lesson? Narashikaku's eyes flashed with thought, and then he said with a smile. Oh, let me guess, what are you up to, Narashikaku? Bai Yu narrowed his eyes, and said with a smile. In an instant, Bai Yu guessed what Narashikaku was up to. No way, just like that, you have thought of some of it? Tell me, what am I thinking of? Narashikaku said with a little surprise in his eyes. It's nothing more than the superb fighting skills in the movie. Although the Nera clan also has the secret art of fighting, the role they play in battle has always been more about control than fighting. He wants me to teach Narashikamaru my ideas. I have also seen that kid. His IQ is definitely higher than yours as a father. If this kid can figure out my ideas, it will undoubtedly be an opportunity for advancement not only for himself, but also for the entire Nera clan in the future. Bai Yu first drank a sip of sake to moisten his throat, then squinted his eyes and said, oh my god, you can guess this? It's just a movie. Narashikaku said with helplessness in his eyes. I have to say, that Bai Yu is really the hardest one to fool in Konoha village. Narashikaku thought to himself. Movie? You say it's an exaggeration. You say it's just an entertainment video. But movies are also thought up by people. Some ideas cannot be realized, but some can be realized. Moreover, the ideas I mentioned at the beginning were completely analyzed, based on the Nara family, when I was chatting with Nara Hirakawa. There is no entertainment at all. If you can't see it, then I really have to doubt the brains of you Nara family. Bai Yu said with a smile. Okay, talking to you is both simple and heartbreaking. It's over whether I teach you or not. Nara Shikaku picked up the sake, touched Bai Yu's glass, and then drank it all in one gulp, looking at Bai Yu and said seriously. Okay. But what? You pay for this meal. Chapter 324, Tachibana Yukayo and Mei Shiranu. After Bai Yu and Nara Shikaku reached an agreement, the two of them drank too much, arm in arm. They were so weak when they walked that they staggered. Hey, stop. A soft female voice came into the ears of Bai Yu and Nara Shikaku. Although this voice sounded soft and charming, it contained a kind of domineering aura of intolerance, and the strong fire attribute element made people have no illusions about this voice. Tachibana Yukayo. If you don't stop, I will take action. Tachibana Yukayo? Exclamation mark. A series of information flashed through Bai Yu's mind. It was Mei Shiranu. Bai Yu sobered up instantly, raised a sly smile at the corner of his mouth, and glanced at Nara Shikaku. Shikaku, there's something interesting going on. Follow me. Bai Yu said softly, and then quietly lurked in one direction. When Nara Shikaku heard that there was something interesting going on, he also secretly moved his chakra, sobered up, and lurked with Bai Yu. Huo. When Tachibana Yukayo heard this, he stood at attention immediately. Then he turned his head, and looked at Mei Shiranu timidly. Tachibana Yukayo, are you still a man? I have crossed mountains and rivers to marry you. I have also suffered such a long period of cruel training. You actually want to run away when you see me. Are you so greedy and ruthless? Mei Shiranu said with her hands on her hips, her eyebrows raised, and a face full of anger. No. Huo. When Tachibana Yukayo heard this, he didn't mean it, but he didn't know what to say. He stuttered in a hurry, and didn't know what to say. I know, Tachibana Yukayo, have you found a new lover in Konoha? Forgot about me, right? Mei Shiranu said angrily. Oh my god, this, you don't care? You are so greedy and ruthless, this. Nara Shikaku in the corner heard it clearly, gently touched Bai Yu, and said with an indignant look. Shikaku, where's your brain? Did it get soaked by alcohol? Do you think that Tachibana Yukayo can do such a thing? Bai Yu rolled his eyes and said impatiently. What's going on? Nara Shikaku's eyes turned. Yes, based on his impression of Tachibana Yukayo, he didn't seem like the kind of person who would do such a thing. Okay, don't bother me watching the show. Maybe this will be the first time that the dragon group holds a wedding. Just watch this. If they don't understand, I'll tell you my guess. Bai Yu said, looking at the young couple with fiery eyes. Nara Shikaku saw Bai Yu's gossiping look, and the corners of his mouth curled, and then he also looked at Tachibana Yukayo and Mei Shiranu with fiery eyes. Passers beyond the street, hearing the conversation between Mei Shiranu and Tachibana Yukayo, sneered at Tachibana Yukayo, with a look of contempt on their faces. But Tachibana Yukayo didn't care. What he cared about was that Mei Shiranu misunderstood him, which was the most fatal. How is it possible? Huo. How could I be such a person? Tachibana Yukayo's face flushed with anxiety, comparable to the rampage mode of entering the blood state. Then tell me, why is it? It was fine before, but since coming to Konoha, he hides when he sees me. Where is the Tachibana Yukayo who loved me in every way before? Mei Shiranu said, a mist rose in her eyes. Seeing this, Tachibana Yukayo panicked in his heart. What he feared most was that Mei Shiranu would cry. In fact, he was very afraid of Mei Shiranu because he felt guilty. Second, he always made Mei Shiranu angry for no reason, so in order not to make Mei Shiranu angry, he would stay away from her and do whatever he wanted him to do. Third, because the Shiranu clan was exterminated, he was unable to help Mei Shiranu, and he didn't dare to face Mei Shiranu in his heart. Moreover, at that time, not only was his ability insufficient, but he could not perfectly master the power of blood. Now he has enough ability and can perfectly master the power of blood, but it's too late. Those wandering ninjas were killed by Mei Shiranu alone. Kill one a day, kill secretly. After such a long time of hunting all over the world, Mei Shiranu finally got her revenge, and then came to Konoha to find Yukio Tachibana. But Yukio Tachibana felt that he was too incompetent and didn't dare to face Mei Shiranu. I don't dare to face you. Yukio Tachibana was very flustered, tightly holding the long sword on his waist. In the past Yukio Tachibana held it in his arms, but he felt that Bai Yu was very handsome on his waist, so he just hung it on his waist. Why don't you dare to face me? Can I eat you? Am I that scary? You just don't love me. You just don't want me. After Mei Shiranu finished speaking, the tears of grievance were like a river with the floodgates opened. There was no sobbing sound, only silent tears, slowly flowing down. Get out of here. Don't delay my business. Scumbag. The young girl who was selling fruit at the side took it and swept Yukio Tachibana's feet twice, saying unhappily. She had been listening to this for a long time, and she really felt sorry for Mei Shiranu. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Tachibana Yukio said a few words awkwardly, then pulled Mei Shiranu and walked to a deserted place. I'll remember you, and I won't sell anything to you in the future. Scumbag. The girl selling fruits raised the broom in her hand, smiled triumphantly, and said proudly. Then she continued to shout. Keep up. Bai Yu patted Narashikaku beside him and said excitedly. No way. I think you should open a wedding company and add a marriage introduction project. Why are you so interested in other people's dating? Narashikaku complained, looked at Bai Yu's back with disdain, then quickened his pace to keep up, with a gossip fire in his eyes that was no less than Bai Yu's. There's no one here. I tell you, Tachibana Yukio, if you don't have a reasonable explanation today, I will leave Konoha. Mei Shiranu said at the end. Her tone was extremely excited. Her tears had dried up, but now they were replenished and continued to flow. Don't cry, Mei Shiranu. I tell you everything. Don't cry. Tachibana Yukio's face became even redder, and he wiped the tears from Mei Shiranu's face with his hands carefully, as if wiping a rare treasure. Feeling Tachibana Yukio's movements, Mei Shiranu felt that Tachibana Yukio didn't seem to not love him. In fact, Mei Shiranu was very simple. In this world, the only thing she cared about was the idiot in front of her. If Tachibana Yukio really didn't love her anymore, she felt that she had nothing to linger on in this world. Tachibana Yukio took a deep breath and then told Mei Shiranu everything from the beginning of knowing Mei Shiranu, to that uncontrollable beast behavior, to the change in mentality later, and his subsequent thoughts without reservation. Chapter 325 What is a shadow? You fool. Big idiot. Mei Shiranu cried even harder, and then began to punch and kick Yukio. Mei Shiranu, I was wrong. But can you tell me how I made you unhappy, so that I can know the reason? Yukio stood still, allowing Mei Shiranu to punch and kick him, and then said with a wry smile. Puchy, you big idiot, you admit your mistake without knowing where you are wrong? Mei Shiranu laughed when she heard Yukio's words, and then said, look at what you said. Even if I'm right, I can't be scolded or hit by you. Yukio touched the back of his head and said with a silly smile. TSK. Tell me, do you often talk smooth with other women in Konoha? Mei Shiranu already had the reason in her mind and was completely relieved, and then she returned to normal with her hands on her hips and said angrily, no. I remember Beitao, who once said this to Lady Tsunade, and I learned it. Yukio suddenly became anxious and hurried to explain. Oh, I can't tell. Ayo. TSK. Narashikaku, who was hiding in the corner, heard what Tachibana Yukio said, and said with a smirk, this stinky boy. Bai Yu ignored Narashikaku, but his mouth twitched twice. Continue to watch the show. Tachibana Yukio. In this life, I'm yours in life and your ghost in death. I don't need you to avenge me. I must avenge my revenge myself. You don't have to feel guilty. Also, although it was an accident, I'm very grateful for this accident, which allowed me to meet the person I love most in this life. Meishiranu is a straightforward and extraordinary woman who dares to love and hate. Tachibana Yukao's heart was surging after hearing these words. Even Narashikaku and Bai Yu, who were standing aside, felt their teeth ache when they heard it, and they grinned for a long time before they calmed down. Tachibana Yukao's breathing became heavy. He hugged Meishiranu all of a sudden. Then, Narashikaku and Bai Yu hurriedly ran away, fearing that they would be discovered by Tachibana Yukao and Meishiranu, which would delay the good thing. Narashikaku and Bai Yu ran a long way. I didn't expect that young people nowadays have so much fun. Narashikaku blushed and said to Bai Yu angrily, "Yeah, it's really exciting. There's not even a barrier, just like this. Well, let's go. I'll go back and see how to teach Narashikamaru. But let's make it clear first, I can only teach this kid ninjutsu. As for the rest, leave it to him to guide the Jonin in the future." Bai Yu's old face also blushed. Then he talked to Narashikaku about teaching Narashikamaru. That's no problem. Being able to teach this kid ninjutsu is already very good. Of course, this is also the top priority. He is still young and has many opportunities to hone his skills. Narashikaku said with a smile. Let's go. Let's go back. Bai Yu also said with a smile and then walked away with Narashikaku arm in arm. The next day, Bai Mansion. Early in the morning, Narashikaku brought Narashikamaru, who had the same impatient expression as him, to Bai Yu's house. However, when he saw Bai Yu, Narashikamaru's eyes were obviously respectful, and his face became slightly respectful. "You. I brought this kid to you," Narashikaku said to Bai Yu with a smile. Bai Yu glanced at Narashikaku and Narashikamaru and said leisurely, "TSK, it's a good thing I didn't inherit all of your genes, otherwise I would be so ugly." "Yes, Shikamaru, you are more handsome than your father." After hearing Bai Yu's words, Narashikamaru touched the back of his head awkwardly, and Narashikaku twitched the corner of his mouth. "Huh, you guy." After Narashikaku vented his dissatisfaction, he turned away. "Sorry, Lord Bai Yu. My father." Seeing his father's rude appearance, Narashikamaru's eyes flashed with helplessness, and then he opened his mouth to say some polite words. Bai Yu interrupted Narashikamaru and said, "Okay, kid, your father and I have a good relationship, so you don't have to be so polite. It's okay. Did you know that your father has a nickname called Little Earthworm?" Narashikamaru was speechless. It seems that he was worried for nothing. Is this friendship? Then why did he get so excited when I called that guy Kimichi Choji a fat guy? Narashikamaru fell into deep thought. In the living room, after Bai Yu told Narashikamaru many embarrassing stories about Narashikaku when he was young, Bai Yu started to get to the point. "I heard that you are more interested in the movie of that cinematographer?" Bai Yu asked. Narashikamaru was immediately excited when he heard it and finally got to the point. "Yes. Moreover, according to my observation, there are many fighting skills in it, which are more suitable for the secret techniques of the Nara clan. Moreover, I only saw the initial ideas in it, and did not observe the later ones." Narashikamaru said with narrowed eyes. "Very good. You are right that you didn't observe it, because at that time, I didn't say too much." Bai Yu said with a smile. "Is that so? So you didn't say much at that time? Huh? You mean?" Narashikamaru said excitedly. "Yes. Otherwise, could your father ask me to teach you?" Bai Yu said with a smile. "So that's it. No wonder my father asked me to learn from you, I thought." Narashikamaru touched the back of his head awkwardly and said, "What did you think?" Bai Yu also said with a smile. "I thought my father designed two ninjutsu for me." Narashikamaru said with an awkward sip of water. "With your father's cleverness, how could he let me teach you so simply? What I want to teach you may be a brand new fighting method that subverts the cognition of your Nara clan. It may also be a ninjutsu application technique that you have never seen before." Bai Yu said in a slightly serious tone. "Please teach me, Mr. Bai Yu." Narashikamaru's brain is not for nothing, and he also knows that this is a big deal, and then he bowed to Bai Yu and said respectfully, "Okay, let's go to the yard." Bai Yu was stunned when he saw this! Exclamation mark. Didn't Narashikaku tell him that he would not accept disciples? Or, yes, it must be Narashikaku's intention. Bai Yu still acquiesced and came to the yard with Naruto with a smile. Snowflakes fell on Naruto's face. Even the cold air could not hide Naruto's enthusiasm for learning. "Shikamaru, tell me what a shadow is," Bai Yu said seriously. There was a breath in his mouth. "What is a shadow?" This question made Naruto confused. Shadow is a means of attack. Shadow can change. No matter how Naruto wanted to answer, he felt that he was inadequate. Shadow. There is a shadow in the dark. As long as it is an object, there will be a shadow. Even a drop of water, under the light, will have a faint shadow. Shadows can be said to be everywhere, but they are covered by light. In the cold winter, Bai Yu instilled the gamma play of shadows to Naruto with a serious face. And Naruto felt that his brain was about to take off. Naruto had never seriously considered what a shadow was. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.